Good evening and welcome to this meeting of the Council of the Town of Oakville. It's January 26, 6:30, and it's time for our meeting. I'm going to ask everybody to rise if you're able and join Council in O Canada. Please be seated. I'd like to give the land acknowledgement and a brief history of our town now. The town of Oakville is located on treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the New Credit. And I beg your pardon, of the Credit First Nation. And we thank the Mississaugas for being stewards of this traditional territory. By 1820, the Mississaugas began welcoming settlers from all over the British Empire. Soon, Oakville was welcoming Black people fleeing the United States. Our Indigenous white and Black residents created a community of harmony that makes us proud. By 1857, Ontario recognized Oakville as a town. At Town Hall, we fly the flag of the Mississaugas with the flags of Oakville, Ontario, and Canada in order to acknowledge our origins. The vibrant livability we are creating for all attracts people from across Canada and the world now. We feel sorry for acts of racism and intolerance suffered across the world, including in Canada and here at home. We want our future to be equitable and inclusive for everyone. We believe the path of truth and reconciliation can unite us. Please keep well, stay safe, and let us on council know of any chance to be helpful to you and yours. And please let us know anytime you can help increase Oakville's harmony, prosperity, and livability. Mr. Clerk, do we have any regrets for this meeting?
We do not.
Council, do we have any declarations of pecuniary interest? Mr. Clerk, there are not. I'd like to take a moment before I call for confirmation of the minutes of previous council meetings to just thank our staff for their marathon effort at clearing the record amount of snow that we received. A slight touch more than even Toronto can claim to have received, so by only a centimeter, but still, there's that. And I acknowledge that snow clearing is ongoing, and our dedicated crews will be working through the night. Council, can I have a confirmation of the minutes of the previous meetings as listed in the agenda? Councillor Duddick and Councillor McNeese, thank you. Any objection? Mr. Clerk, there being no objection, those are carried. Now, Council, we have a delegation here who wishes to address us on the Oakville Enterprises matter that's before us. And this is at the suggestion of Councillor McNeese. Councillor McNeese, thank you for that. And that's 11.1. And what I'm proposing to do is to call our delegate, Ruth Perkins, and to then call the OEC presentation so that they won't be detained through the rest of the meeting before we hear from them. Ms. Perkins, if you come to the center, the microphone height is adjustable to suit you up or down, and the table itself can be moved as well. We look forward to your remarks.
Good evening, Mayor Burton and councillors. I bring you tonight a good news item. My name is Ruth Perkins, and I'm here as a representative of the Bronte Coat Drive, which took place on Saturday, October 18th, 2025, in the gymnasium and outdoors at St. Dominic's School on Rebecca Street. I'm here to give you some background and also to extend our thank yous to the town of Oakville for their assistance. Formed some 15 years ago through a coalition of 3 churches in Bronte, paused for 2 years for COVID, this is a vibrant local initiative undertaken by a group of Bronte residents who wanted initially to create a service not otherwise offered by social services agencies. We thought that if we could help people to stay warm in our winters, it would be an area in which we could ask Oakville residents if they would be able to help us without asking us for money. The thought being, ask for winter wear people are done with and give it to people who need it. Especially tonight, I can only imagine that standing on Wycroft Road or Spears Road, to mention just 2 locations, waiting for a bus can be very cold beginning or end to the workday. The Bronte Coat Drive is a demonstration of what ordinary citizens can do with a common goal, a great deal of energy and a lot of heart. The fact that we have a strong group of core volunteers who have been with us, the project, from the outset, is a testament to the value and dedication of the organizers. Just this past year, we involved more than 50 like-minded volunteers, simply offering their various talents to keep the coat drive moving forward. The work we do and the growth we have enjoyed would not have been possible without the partnership we have enjoyed with Oakville Hydro Organization. We are grateful for the amazing support received from members of Oakville Hydro staff who have demonstrated their willingness to accommodate our changing needs and the generosity of the management in doing this. The partnership has definitely helped us to achieve the success we have today. I would be remiss if I did not thank the Oakville fire stations at Bronte Road and Kerr Street, who receive donations every year and hold them for our pickup, even calling when they're ready for us. Councillor McNeese has been a strong addition to our team and has been most accommodating and helpful. Most recently, we have partnered with the Bronte BIA, which has resulted in greater community involvement. New this past year, we had an information booth at the Canada Day celebration in Heritage Park, and through the Bronte BIA, we had a presence at the Bronte Farmers Market with the Big Chair Challenge. We were introduced to the crowds at the Lake Notes music concerts in the park, all of which encouraged groups, individuals, and retailers in our community to step up with their own internal collections, greatly increasing our inventory. From a collection of 300 coats in year 1, our inaugural year, our inventory has continued to increase every year. 15 years later, over 3,500 items were donated to the 2025 coat drive. We have responded to the changing needs by offering footwear and warm day wear and are hoping to expand our ask to infant and toddler wear next year. Every organization needs some financial support, and our donations come from private residents of Oakville, schools, service organization, and Oakville and elsewhere businesses. Sorting the mountains of donated items takes a tremendous effort on the part of our volunteers, and we have added a component of inviting private business to join us for their team-building experiences. The modest number of items remaining at the end of each annual distribution day are not held over but are delivered to charitable organizations in urban areas, providing clothing to homeless and marginalized folks at no charge. We are proud of what we have accomplished and are looking forward to continuing to expand our efforts, increasing our inventory, and sharing the warmth with those who otherwise would go without. The Bronte Coat Drive has become a true community effort. Warmth is our goal. I hope you have some questions, and if not now, then at a future date. We are working on a simple website known as the Bronte Coat Drive. Our next giveaway day for the Bronte Coat Drive is October 17, 2026. I thank you all for your attention and encouragement.
Thank you very much for your lovely report. And I wonder if you have had any participation with the Social Services Department of the Region of Halton in this.
Yes.
Oh, good. Well, then perhaps we can arrange a time for you to make a similar presentation to the Halton Regional Council.
Well, I would like that. Thank you.
Well, you're very welcome.
Thank you.
Councillor Elgar has a question for you.
Scott.
Through you, Mayor Burton, it's not a question. I just thought if you're interested in going into business, let me know, because I see you have a 1,167% increase since you started this job.
Unbelievable.
So, pretty amazing.
It only took 15 years. It was all right.
I thank you. That's
Thank you.
fantastic.
Councillor, oh, sorry, Ruth. Councillor McNeese wants to thank you for the compliments that you threw his way. Councillor McNeese.
You just took the words out of my mouth, Mayor. Thank you, Ruth, to you and all the volunteers. And as unfortunate as it is that the need goes up every year, you're right there with, reaching out further and further into the community. And it's heartwarming to hear how much the community can give. And the fact that you diversify every year, there's a new section for boots or youth or hats and scarves, and especially on a day like today, like you said, it's you're doing the right thing. So keep it up, and thanks for giving us this good news story.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Perkins. We'll now call Rob Lister, the President and CEO of Oakville Enterprises, for his quarterly update to Council. Welcome. We look forward to the update.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilors, it's great to be here again, start of the year for our first presentation. I'd like to thank Ruth for your nice comments. Thank you very much, Ruth. So with me today, we have Scott Moody, who will be speaking to the presentation in a few minutes, Jeff Mocha, Laura Wilson, Bethany St. Pierre, and Andrew Elenazir. We also have in the audience one of our board members, Ian Cockwell. We are starting our presentation this evening with a nice photo of the Knox Presbyterian Church in downtown Oakville. This Gothic-style building, and this has nothing to do with the presentation, it was the picture we're using. So this Gothic-style building was built in 1888. Previously, the White Oak Hotel was at this site, and it was the home of the O'Reilly Tavern. The tavern went out of business after the residents of Oakville voted to support Prohibition. And then 1881, and the property was, that was in 1881, and a few years later, they sold it to the church. Okay, so as part of our first update of the new year, we'll share an overview of OEC's growing renewable energy portfolio, provide an update on the recent electricity system restoration effort, and conclude with highlights on how our teams ended the year supporting the community. This photo illustrates a project in which our primary engineering and construction company from Calgary, for the Sootenay Nation in Alberta, just west of Calgary, they designed and built the electrical distribution, telecommunications, and the streetlights, and as well the first 3 operational traffic signals. So at this point, I'm going to ask Scott to come up and carry on with the presentation. Thank you. Scott?
Thank you, Rob. Mayor Burton, councilors, and town staff, thank you for the opportunity to provide you with an update today. OEC is continuing to grow our renewable energy portfolio across Canada as part of our commitment to sustainability, environmental stewardship, and building long-term value for our shareholders. The base of the portfolio started right here in Oakville. On the screen, you will see our rooftop solar installations on this building. On Oakville Hydro's Redwood Square office, at 16 Mile Sports Complex, and atop of the Glen Abbey and River Oaks community centers. As part of our long-term growth strategy, OEC expanded its clean electricity portfolio to support the growing energy demand and the transition to a low-carbon electricity grid. Our recent acquisition of the East Strathmore Solar Project, located roughly 60 kilometers from Calgary, Alberta, combined with our Sunny Shores Solar Project in Picton, nearly triples our ground-mounted solar capacity and contributes to the growth of renewable electricity across Canada. We also own and operate several water power assets in Ontario, including the Kagawan Station situated on Manitoulin Island and the Carlisle Generating Stations on South River near North Bay. Pictured on the screen are the Corkery Falls and Geisler Falls dams, which play a vital role in Carlisle Generating Station's system and help manage and balance water levels upstream and downstream. Also on screen is a picture of the Corkery Powerhouse, which highlights the turbine scroll case. OEC is proud to support the proliferation of sustainable, zero-emission heating and cooling, facilitating economic growth both locally here in Oakville and nationally. In the top left-hand corner, you have drilling and pipe installations at the 16 Mile Sports Complex. Below that is the operational mechanical room at the Oakville Trafalgar Community Center. And on the right-hand side is the geo-exchange drilling for the new Gemini condo development, which is part of South Oakville Kerr Village redevelopment plan. OEC's geo-exchange asset pool is growing, providing heating and cooling to over 1,700 condos and townhomes across 9 sites. Shown here are 5 of our geo-exchange systems in Oakville, Burlington, and Toronto. And here we showcase our installations in North York, Brampton, Ottawa, and at Oakville Hydro's head office. Pivoting to Oakville Hydro, on November 16th, 2025, at 2:15, high winds caused a tree on private property outside of Oakville Hydro's vegetation management clearance zone to fall onto overhead distribution lines. Nearby weather stations recorded wind gusts of up to 80 kilometers per hour just before the incident. As a result, 3,305 of our customers experienced a power disruption. The damage resulted in a major outage affecting the southwest Oakville area in Ward 1, from Burloak Drive to Bronny Road, and from the CNR tracks all the way to Lakeshore. Crews were dispatched immediately to secure the area, ensure public and worker safety, and power was restored to affected customers. Service was fully restored to everyone within 2 hours. As is tradition, Oakville Hydro kicked off the holiday season by participating in the town of Oakville's annual tree lighting ceremony and Santa Claus parade. This year, Oakville Hydro earned the Best Commercial Float Award, an achievement made possible by teamwork, creativity, and a strong community spirit. I'd sincerely like to thank our volunteers and esteemed judges for this honor. Beyond our core work, we are committed to being an active and supportive community partner. Recently, employees volunteered with Feed Halton to assist with food sorting, box assembly, and packaging. Feed Halton is a nonprofit organization that procures, manages, and delivers needed food support to agency network partners throughout Halton region. This example is one of many efforts that our employees undertake, reflecting their pride in giving back and the importance placed on building strong, trusted relationships within the communities that we all serve. During the months of December and January, Oakville Hydro launched the Switch to Support the Season campaign in support of Feed Halton. When customers switch to paperless billing, Oakville Hydro donates $10 to Feed Halton to support families in need right here in our community. Customers looking for information on switching to paperless billing can visit the Oakville Hydro website under the Accounts and Services tab. You can also switch using our easy-to-use My Oakville Hydro mobile app, or you can simply call and chat with one of our customer service representatives who would be happy to help. Oakville Hydro's hosted a toy drive in support of the Tiger Jeet Singh's Foundation, Miracle on Main Street. Employees donated over 300 unwrapped toys to help spread the holiday joy throughout the community. The Tiger Jeet Singh Foundation is a registered Canadian charity founded by wrestling legend Tiger Jeet Singh and is based in Halton. Oakville Hydro is very proud to be a long-standing supporter of the Brawny Coat Drive, an initiative championed by former Town of Oakville Councillor Ralph Robinson. The Coat Drive is organized in partnership with St. Dominic's Parish, Church of the Epiphany, and Walton Memorial United Church. This annual event, as you've just heard, collects and distributes thousands of winter coats and apparel to those in need. This last picture highlights one of our Alberta-based crews working on an overhead electricity line in Banff, Alberta. So thank you for your time this evening, and as always, we'd be pleased to answer any of your questions.
Thank you very much. Council appreciates your report. Questions? Councillor Adams.
Thanks very much for the community update and all the information you provided to us. I wondered if you would be able to, either now or at a future date, provide a list of risks that OAC might face from either a financial or technical perspective. And in particular, could you tell us to what degree we're reliant on equipment from the United States?
Okay, excellent question through you, Mayor Burton. We do have a very comprehensive enterprise risk management framework, which looks at our enterprise's top risks and specifically risks that could impact the achievement of our strategic goals. Those are reviewed monthly with our management team and quarterly with the board. But we can certainly provide you with a list of those risks in the coming days.
That would be great. Thank you very much.
And to your second part, we've looked at our supply chain a few times. Initially, when tariffs were first introduced, to look at the impact, and now monitoring that situation on a more regular basis. The impact of our procurement from US-based suppliers is minimal, and we're always looking for sourcing materials locally first, and from sources that are within Canada.
Great, thank you very much.
All right, Councillor Longo, and then Councillor Lischina.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you for a great presentation. Scott, a quick question on the geothermal. Is there a lot of interest from developers? I know the condo market's kind of flat right now, but are you getting interest from developers? And more specifically, have you had any discussions with the Midtown projects to potentially put geothermal in there?
Yes, through you, Mayor Burton. There still remains interest in the technology. Condo market is slowing down for sure. However, we're pivoting a little bit more to the MUSH sector. We're seeing some campus developments at academic institutions and some other provincial agencies that could be potential clients for our program. So the need and the desire to go with these types of technologies is still strong. The market's a little less strong, right? And the second part, the Midtown development. So we recently met with some of the developers that have interest in the Midtown, and we met with them before the new year as well. So those talks are ongoing, and as well with town staff on future developments. We're always looking to get a head start.
Thank you. And I just want to, thank the Oakville Hydro folks and OEC folks. The community involvement that you demonstrate is second to none. And I happen to be a judge at the parade, but to see not only how the float was put together, just having your employees there and interacting with the crowd was incredible, and everything you're doing. So thank you for that.
I can tell you, following on that, you also made thousands and thousands of boys and girls of all ages happy with the tree decorating job that you did on that massive best ever tree in the downtown. But before we go on to Councilor Lischina, please decipher what a mush is.
Oh, just municipal, universities, those type of campus style.
Okay. So
It's a sector, it's a.
An abbreviation for something, all right.
Yeah.
Councilor Lischina.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Scott. Happy New Year to you and everyone at OEC. Wonderful presentation. I'm really curious regarding the extensive renewable portfolio at OEC, and in particularly the municipal buildings. How do we compare to other municipalities regarding their buildings using renewable energy on their own sites?
Yes, excellent question. And through you, Mayor Burton, the ownership and installation of renewables on municipal buildings varies across the province. There are some that have used their LDCs or municipally owned entities like OEC to help facilitate that. Others have gone to private markets. But I would say the combination of municipal deployment of these assets on municipal-owned infrastructure that still remains under the ownership of a municipal entity. We are uncommon in the province. We have quite a considerable group of assets. There'd only be a few other municipalities, larger municipalities, that might be able to compare.
That's great to hear, being leaders in this space. So when appropriate, I'd like to send them the motion to accept this report. Thank you so much, Scott.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. And we're gonna promote Councilor Lischina on her word to be the mover of receipt. And thank you to Oakville Enterprises and everybody for showing up and for the work that you're doing for us. I think maybe at your next quarterly meeting with us, I wonder if you could give us a little bit of a compare and contrast between I'm going to call it the saga of EPCOR, which was one of the inspirations for OEC, and how OEC is doing versus their track record. That might be fun for everybody. Councilor Lischina has moved receipt. I need a seconder. Councilor Knoll, thank you. Any objection? There being none, that is carried and received. Thanks, everybody. Now, Council, are there any items on the agenda that anybody wants to defer, refer, or otherwise take off the table at this time? No? Oh, all right. Including a referral. Do you have one? You have the floor.
So thank you very much. Mayor Burton, through you. Consent item 9.2, corporate policy update, be referred back to staff to provide the following information to council before the end of the quarter 1, 2026. Number one was that staff provide a plain language summary identifying all the substantive changes to the financial control policy and new financial control procedure, including controls moved, changed, or removed prior to final approval. 2, that staff provide a summary identifying financial policy and procedural updates related to strong mayor authority impact. And 3, that the user fees policy be reviewed for the consideration of the Oakville Public Library. And I would so ask us, all members of council, to support that. And I'd also like to thank staff for helping me write the referral. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Councilor Hazatil, are you offering to second it, or do you want to discuss it?
I just would like to add one item to it, on the refer back.
Go ahead.
that staff revisit the word "will" in the budget policy, reflecting the section that refers to the strategic plan. The word has been changed from "will" to "should" align with our strategic plan. I just ask that it be revisited in the refer back.
All right, so I don't want to get hung up on a procedural thing. Councillor Elgar, can you accept that as a friendly amendment?
I was going to say, that sounds like an absolutely friendly amendment.
And I hope council will tolerate the friendly amendment approach I'm taking. Councillor Knoll?
I just wanted to flag the issue about library fees. I understand today that there was a discussion between finance and the CEO of the library to remove that already, that it'll be reconsidered at a later time through the renegotiation of our service level agreement, or SLA. So I'm not sure that's necessary in that motion, but maybe staff could comment on it.
Yeah, sure.
Well, I don't think there's any harm to that possibility from the words in this motion.
Except potentially the confusion, because there is a question about the appropriateness of the town establishing fees for the library when the library is a separate agency. So I think that was what the real argument was. So from the library board's perspective, I'll speak on behalf of the board as the chair, I'd like to see that, and I believe the staff already agree, I'd like to see that removed and taken off the table and dealt with through the SLA, which is the most appropriate venue.
Councillor Elgar's motion will allow that to happen.
Okay, well, I've put my point forward.
Yeah, well, Councillor, that's exactly what staff told me. I did not have this in initially, but they asked if I would be okay if I added that.
Oh, that's perfect then. Thank you very much. Thanks for your hard work.
Thanks.
All right, so I hope my support of your motion has helped here, Councillor. Councillor Giddings.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Are you still looking for a seconder for the motion as amended?
I am, and are you the kind soul who's answered the call?
I am indeed.
Thank you so much. Well, that completes all the ingredients we need to call the vote. Are there any objections to the motion? Mr. Clerk, I see none. The motion carries. All right, Council, if there's nothing else that we want to change to the agenda, let's proceed. Looks like we're going to proceed. So the advisory committee minutes are before you for approval, and we need a mover and seconder for that. And Councillor Chisholm and Councillor Shea, thank you. Any objection? There being none, that's approved. Now we have the consent items. And Councillor Adams, as I understand it, you might like to move 9.4 and have a few words about it. Can I get a seconder for that? Councillor Longo. Councillor Adams, you have the floor.
Thanks very much. Just on 9.4, which is the East Morrison Creek Erosion Mitigation Class EA study, I wanted to thank our staff for their work. Councillor Natalia and I met with our staff team on it recently, and we're quite satisfied with the work they've done, and we look forward to the further work that they're going to do and the outreach they'll do to the affected residents who are in the area.
All right. And councillors, are you willing to add to your motion the other consent items? I'm not seeing any other.
Yes, sir. I'd be happy to move 9.1 and 9.3.
Burton, I just have a question on 9.3.
Well, you have the floor.
So thank you for the response today in regards to the parking growth reserve. Under the recommendation, and I don't know if I need to add it, if it could just be taken as direction, if we could have an historical review of the funds that were contributed by the downtown businesses to the parking amount that will go into the parking reserve. I understand that your response says that the parking growth reserve would be used town-wide, but I have businesses that recall that it is primarily through downtown and Kerr Street, and I'm just asking if there could be an historical reflection so that I can appropriately answer their concerns around how the money that was used to buy, in part, to buy the post office was calculated and where it came from.
Thank you for that question, Councillor Hassett, through you, Mayor Burton. Development charges, I believe, as you know, are collected town-wide. We don't typically categorize them by wards or by areas where they're collected from. I can go back to staff and see if we can pull information to see where they've been collected from and provide perhaps a summary, but as per the development charges legislation, it's a town-wide initiative where we collect for them and then put them towards projects anywhere within the town. It's not ward-specific or area-specific.
So Commissioner, thank you for that additional clarification. I'm actually speaking specifically about the parking dollars, not the DC dollars. There's some businesses that have a long memory about the dollars and how they were accumulated. I just want to make sure that I have my facts straight about where did those parking dollars come from, and were there any, is there any documentation about how they should have been allocated? I don't expect you to have the answer tonight, but if you could provide it, that would be helpful.
Okay, thank you.
Alrighty, Councillor McNeese.
Thank you, Worship. I just wanted to add to Councillor Hassett-Thiel's request that Bronte Village now pays into that parking reserve fund. So just correction on that. Thank you.
All right. All right, the consent items are moved by Councillors Longo and Adams and Longo in that order. Any objection? Mr. Clerk, there being none, the consent items are considered and adopted as recommended. And I'm pretty sure that brings us to 11.2. Somehow we got to 11.2. So we have a staff presentation by Andrea Coyne, the Deputy Clerk, and if you'll give your attention to her on the screen, we will all be brought to the same page, hopefully.
Good evening, Mayor Burton, members of council. I'm happy to provide an overview of the proposed lobbyist and gift registry framework, including objectives, key considerations, and potential policy-based alternatives. So council asked in July of 2025 to develop a draft framework for a lobbyist and gift registry. And in response, staff reviewed leading practices from Ontario municipalities and summarized key findings in the staff report. The report highlights the proposed framework, considerations, and limitations, and how Oakville's current governance tools support transparency. These insights are intended to provide council with a balanced and comprehensive understanding of available options, including both formal registry models and enhancements to current practices. A lobbyist registry is designed to promote transparency, accountability, and public trust in municipal decision-making. It requires disclosure of communications between lobbyists, individuals representing business and financial interests, and designated public office holders, and this includes elected officials and staff. A registry is not intended to deter community members from engaging public office holders, but rather promote transparency and accountability in municipal decision-making. And it complements the town's codes of conduct and expectations around ethical behavior. Advocacy is broad and focused on influencing public opinion. Lobbying, on the other hand, is targeted communication intended to influence a specific decision or legislative outcome. The framework distinguishes between the two so that only relevant activities are captured. The proposed framework is based on benchmarking with municipalities such as Toronto, Ottawa, Burlington, and Waterloo, and it is intended to align with our existing governance policies. Implementation would occur in phases over roughly 18 months, including bylaw development, consultation, education, and a soft launch before full enforcement. The timing of implementation considers several factors, including alignment with the 2026 municipal elections, the need to build public awareness, administrative capacity, and the importance of equipping newly elected officials with clear and transparent governance tools. And this is consistent with practices observed in the benchmarking summary. Also, to note, advisory notes have been included in the proposed framework to highlight areas that may require further review. Should council direct staff to report back with a bylaw to establish a registry, staff recommend additional consultation, engagement, and consideration in specific sections of the bylaw to ensure the approach remains practical and aligned with Oakville's governance objectives. Our existing codes of conduct for both council and staff restrict the acceptance of gifts that could influence decision-making. Additional measures, such as expanded definitions or disclosure requirements, could further strengthen transparency. Each public office holder is accountable to the public. The town's approach, grounded in clear policies and supported by education and training, aims to uphold public trust through a proactive and enforceable framework. Further staff and public education and engagement can continue to strengthen the system. Should council wish to explore additional measures, targeted amendments could be considered to enhance disclosure requirements and reinforce accountability. Registry costs vary widely among municipalities, depending on the model, the system complexity, and oversight levels. Some municipalities, like Vaughan, invested around $250,000 for launch, while others, like Waterloo, use leaner approaches but still incur expenses for software, staffing, and oversight. For Oakville, should council wish to implement a registry, staff recommend that the 2026 capital budget be amended to cover costs related to software, staffing, training, policy development, and this is important for the project's success. And regardless of the model, a registry should be supported by adequate resources. Otherwise, its impact may be limited and risks becoming symbolic rather than effective. A lobbyist registry is often viewed as a way to strengthen transparency and accountability, but it is important to recognize both its benefits and limitations. Registries create a public record of lobbying activity as a disclosure tool, but they don't regulate influencer outcomes. And while registries may enhance transparency, they also require ongoing administration and enforcement. Should council wish to implement a lobbyist and gift registry, consistent with the framework in Appendix A, recommended wording is provided on page 6 of the staff report. So during consultations for this report, one question that came up was whether the goals of transparency and accountability could be met by strengthening existing policies rather than introducing a registry. The town already has a strong governance framework in place that includes the council and employee codes of conduct, which promotes ethical behavior, conflict management, and gift restrictions, with oversight by the Integrity Commissioner. And structured procurement policies and other accountability and transparency policies are in place to safeguard and promote ethical decision-making. In addition, many municipal staff hold professional designations and are subject to external codes of ethics, disciplinary processes, and regulatory oversight. When combined with internal policies, bylaws, and provincial legislation, these measures create a comprehensive accountability framework. Collectively, these mechanisms provide a proactive and enforceable approach to ethical governance and help maintain public confidence in municipal decision-making. And a comprehensive list outlining the purpose of each, key provisions, and how it supports transparency begins on page 7 of the staff report and exists to collectively support transparency and accountability. Staff recommend that direction be given to report back to Council by Q2 of 2027 with proposed internal policy enhancements aimed at strengthening accountability and transparency in municipal decision-making. Oakville's governance framework promotes ethical conduct, transparency, and accountability through clear policies, codes of conduct, oversight, and structured decision-making controls. Rather than establishing a registry, staff recommend enhancing existing policies such as the codes of conduct and procurement bylaw. Proposed improvements may include clearer definitions, mandatory disclosure, regular training, and refined procedures. This approach is cost-effective, practical, and minimizes administrative overhead while leveraging established governance structures. And that does conclude my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Looks like you may have a few. We'll start with Councillor Dark.
Thank you, through you, Your Worship. Thank you very much, Andrea, for all your hard work and staff's hard work on this issue. It's very beneficial, having had the benefit of you reporting back, to get a better appreciation. When Councillor Alger and I met with yourself and with William Short, the clerk, I didn't realize there was such a lengthy sort of ramping up of things. I think you had indicated some spent 2, maybe 3 years prior to implementing something. And I guess at first blush, we had sort of thought, well, why wouldn't we just use something that somebody else already has? But as you rightly said, it's the educational, the engagement, all those various aspects that make it successful. So well done in that. You did mention the Integrity Commissioner, and that's something that, again, we mentioned during the course of our discussions with you, is having an opportunity whereby we have more regular communication with the Integrity Commissioner reporting back to us as to how many cases were filed, how many were dismissed, because as you said, if it's dismissed, it doesn't have to be reported with a thorough investigation. I think that's something that will assist us considerably going forward. And again, as you pointed out, the amount of really good policies we already have in place, it's the reporting or the findings of those various policies. I think we're not as transparent with the public in regards to the fact that we've got our eyes on this constantly and that we're very mindful. The other thing I think we mentioned, and I'm glad you raised it, I believe, in your presentation, are BIAs. I know that Mayor Burton, I think it was the first term, had a really helpful AMO presentation where we invited all the BIAs, anybody who had a residents association, to come and listen to conflicts of interest, pecuniary interest, things like that. So that might be, again, an opportunity for us through this process to help remind, educate, because the players may have changed and maybe some of the mandates have changed. So I think the motion that you provided us, Councillor Alger, myself, with those points 3 and 4, as you pointed out, were in the body of your report anyway, just sort of brings them up to the forefront. So I think we're really doing a good job going forward. And I do think your point is well taken. Next year is going to be a very busy year. And I dare say it's going to be all hands on deck with various other duties. So you don't need this sort of complicating the matter. So better that we do it right rather than rush it. Thank you again for all your hard work.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Chisholm.
Thank you, Worship. Andrea, great report, a lot of detail, but my personal opinion, I think we've got a hammer killing a flea on this one. I think we've got enough internal policies to cover what we need to do and transparency, but I agree with you. I think you look at the internal policies and tighten them up. I'm not in favor of building another bureaucracy of another oversight department, whatever you want to call it, for this. I think I don't really see the lobbying, unless I'm missing something. I've never seen any complaints about lobbying or any complaints about the process. So I'm not sure why this came about from the beginning. So I'm just trying to clarify. I think our own internal policies and operations and processes work very well. I've seen it happen many times in council when things come up, especially with gifts and so forth. So my recommendation is that we keep what we've got and tighten up what we've got and avoid any more overhead costs and bureaucracy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Lischina.
Thank you, Worship. I was actually impressed about how much internal policy we have with respect to transparency and accountability. So I am in support of what Councillor Chisholm has said. I also support what Councillor Dudek said about the reporting back. Based on a lot of this, I don't ever recall seeing a full report from an integrity commissioner, but that's certainly one of the places. Then we've got them on retainer. If somebody has a complaint, most of these things happen on a whistleblower type of way. So if we've got these mechanisms already, I'm concerned about another $170,000 of taxpayer money for another sort of bureaucratic. And the big point in your report said, you know, in the end, if someone really wants to do something that awful in a sense of, you know, no integrity, then they're going to still find a way. And here we are. We have about 10 pages of policies that show us that we can strengthen the ability to be more transparent and accountable and not spend so many more taxpayer dollars like for the development. And then for, I don't even know how much we would spend on a operating yearly basis. And that's every tax dollar is important. And I don't want to spend it that way.
Thank you, Councillor. I apologize, Council. I just tried to catch up with the rest of you by getting a copy of 3 and 4. Councillor has the deal.
Thank you very much for the report and for sort of the pros and cons. I'm not seeing any information about council's accountability to perhaps participate in a lobbyist registry or a gift registry. In other words, a model that would require us to simply record that we met with X developer on a certain date and time and, you know, 2 bullet points on what it was about. Is there a reason the hybrid option has not been explored further?
Through you, Mayor Burton, I would look at that, I guess, in a way as an informal lobbyist registry or one directed just with council. Staff would be happy to report back to council on that option if directed to do so.
So when you reference this as informal, I'm not clear what.
All of the models that we looked at, through you, Mayor Burton, through the Ontario municipalities that have a lobbyist registry, all had a very similar framework to the one that was included in the report. And so that is, it's not limited to council, it's council and senior staff.
So my request would be understanding the implications of whether council as individuals had to complete a registration. It seems interesting to me that everybody relies on the lobbyist or the individual coming in to see us, but in fact, we are ultimately accountable for our actions, and we know who we meet with and who we and the date and time. So, would you be able to report back on the simplicity of that?
Through you, Mayor Burton, absolutely, staff could report back on that. The one thing that we did come across in our benchmarking study was that all municipalities, I do believe with the exception of Toronto, because they do have a complex system, the onus does fall on the lobbyist. It does not fall on council or senior staff. And that was a common theme that we saw with all of Ontario municipalities who had a lobbyist registry.
So maybe it's time we turned it upside down. I'd appreciate that, seeing that option when, depending on how this goes, reporting back. Thanks very much.
All right, thank you. Councillor Dudek.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just in speaking to the points that were raised by my colleagues, I guess the whole rationale for bringing this forward was based on the fact that we are in unprecedented times of growth right now. And this is not chump change, so to speak. We're not dealing with individual developments. We're dealing with massive developments with huge amounts of money. And I repeatedly hear from members of the community that they're convinced somebody's getting their palms greased somewhere. And that was the whole rationale behind it. It was the transparency. It wasn't that anything was being done untoward. I do agree we've got great policies that should be enhanced and fine-tuned, but looking around, especially with the other municipalities who have taken this on, I think it behooves us at this time to give as much comfort and transparency to members of the public as possible, that we are all above board, even though that goes without saying. I'm just saying, giving them that comfort level, that's where I'm at.
Thank you, Councillor. Mr. Clerk? Councillor Haslett-Thiel.
I do have one other question, and it relates to, given that some folks have asked about, as it was well said by Councillor Duddick, the importance of transparency and having something that we can refer to. Has there ever been, or is there an option to put it as an election question on the ballot? If the public would support or wishes us to have a registered lobbyist and gift registry?
Through you, Mayor Burton. So the Council of a Municipality may pass a bylaw to submit to its electors by May 1st of an election year. So we are still within the time if Council wishes to provide staff direction to include that.
So we could add it to the ballot to get a pulse from the public on something that really does speak to one of our core values, which is transparency. Thanks very much.
Madam Clerk, is there still a requirement that the province approve any such question before it actually goes on the ballot?
Through Mayor Burton, no. There's options. A question may be posed by a minister, but the local municipality may establish such a question.
All right. Well, the councillor's question sort of contradicts proposed item 3 on this resolution that we're looking at, folks. And we've got a number of more speakers, so I'll just mention that for everybody to chew on and recognize Councillor Lischina.
Thank you, Worship. I am intrigued by the option, or that wasn't provided, that Councillor Haslett-Thiel mentioned here, because if the onus is on the elected officials, then we know where there is integrity lacking. Whereas the issue with so many I don't even know who half these developers are, so I can't really say, even if I could tell you when we've met with them, when we've met with staff. So the concept of putting your calendar down to say when this happened should not be a huge cost to taxpayers. So I actually would like, if it is part of the back to staff to do this report, that what will be the cost of that? It can't be hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like that would just be shocking. So if that's possible to add that option with how much that would cost taxpayers, I would really like to know. Thank you.
All right. I'll invite you to remember that to make anything happen, it takes a motion, and we have a motion somewhere. I believe it has 4 parts, the 2 that are in the report and the 3 that are at the top of the report, and the other 2 that are, I believe, on page 6 of the report. And with that, leaving you to think about that, Councillor Giddings.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree fully with Councillor Duddick and Councillor Haslett-Thiel. Because other municipalities may not have this, I don't think that's a reason for us not to move forward and raise the bar for all municipalities in terms of having us keep track of who we see and who we chat with. So are you looking for a penned motion to that effect for inclusion?
This is turning into such the discussion, I would recommend that you start writing something down as opposed to giving us something now. There's so much conversation ahead of you that there may be more ideas coming. But it's only my advice. You're free to make a motion.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Councillor Elgar.
Mayor Burton, thank you very much. And I would just like to add, since I'm the seconder of the motion with Councillor Duddick who moved it, that I would be in favor of seeing Councillor Haslett-Thiel's proposal as an excellent idea and ask how we could make that as a friendly amendment, not to have to be moved separately. If staff could help us write that, if Councillor Duddick is in agreement with that, but that really would give it, what she just said really we'd see whether we have the public behind us or not. And that could make quite a difference, I think, in the next election.
Councillor it's contradictory to proposed item 3 of your motion.
Well, I did hear you say that, and I'm asked how, I would ask staff to help us when we get to that point, to write it so we're not counteracting part 3 of the motion.
I would suggest that we probably need, well, you can't not contradict it. It contradicts it on its face.
But if we change this option 3 that we're proposing to make it work, then we could do it.
Yes,
But
and
that would be up to staff to help us, as long as Councillor Duddick's in agreement, that's for sure.
I believe.
No problem.
As your chair, I believe that the mover and seconder and Councillor Haslett-Thiel, you're in a position to do that best, I think.
I think I would go, like staff's help with us, because they did help Councillor Duddick. Well, they actually, Councillor Duddick arranged and had this prepared. Now, this is something new that's come into it.
All right, Councillor, let's get all the other ideas on the floor.
Absolutely.
And after we've done that, let's have a consideration as to what we want to ask staff to help us with. And if we still want that, then we'll have a recess for staff to wordsmith something.
Sounds like a plan. Thank you.
All right, okay. Next, Councillor Adams.
Thanks very much. I've got a couple of questions based on the comments that have come up so far. So first of all, on the question of should a registry be designed so that only the elected members submit the materials to the registry? Why is it that none of the other registries use that in their lobbyist registries? Is it because it's confusing to who you met with? It's hard to track. I know all of us are at public events all the time, and who knows who is in the room of 200 or 300 people. Could there be a perception that we missed putting something into a registry because some developer was in the room, but we never actually spoke to them to our knowledge? Why is it that nobody else does it?
Through you, Mayor Burton, what I could formalize based on the benchmarking is many municipalities don't even stop at senior staff. They extend it to a broader group because anyone really could, in a way, be influenced through lobbying. You would want to go through the same steps for education and engagement to ensure that everybody is aware of the rules, and so everybody has that opportunity to know that a registry is within the municipality, and everybody is aware of the rules.
Okay. So from what I understand, I don't think I would support making a registry that is only related to the elected officials and only the elected officials being the ones submitting the material. I think that fails in a number of ways, including problems with understanding who we should be submitting, quite frankly. The second question I had was on the question of adding a question as a referendum on a municipal ballot. What's it cost to do that?
Through you, Mayor Burton, the education and engagement, in my opinion at the moment, would not, that would be the only cost associated with it, because we would obviously want to educate the staff, and so we would want to educate the public. There will be a lot of questions, and no doubt a lot of residents or voters maybe aren't familiar with what a lobbyist is, so our education and outreach for the election would grow in terms of being able to educate them on the voters on what the question really is asking.
Okay, so it sounds like we would end up spending thousands of dollars on an education campaign so that people could make an informed decision on a ballot question. That sounds like a poor choice of resources on something that even if we decide to do it, it's going to be $170,000. So I'd rather just make the decision and move ahead. But anyway, I'll leave off and let the other members proceed.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor O'Meara.
Thank you, Your Worship. It's just a question to Andrea. We've kind of gone around in a long circle, and from what I read in the report, is you said there are very robust policies in place in terms of our code of conduct and a whole range of procurement policies that we have, and that those things can be tweaked should we want to make them stronger, but they're working and they're there. And maybe we need to communicate that better, because if, as Councillor Duddick mentioned, or people have whatever, people think what they think of elected officials. I don't think we're going to change that much, but maybe this is a communication issue, because I didn't hear you outlining we've got a whole bunch of problems and we need to spend money to fix it here. Am I correct, or did I mishear that?
Through you, Mayor Burton, no, you are correct in saying that. And in terms of enhanced internal policy enhancements, there's always ways to enhance internal policies, but I do draw attention to the training and the education that really could go a long way for both council, staff, and the public.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Nando.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Burton. Thanks, Andrea. So I just have one specific question. If we're looking at specifically lobbyists and we're talking more specifically about developers, I would like to get some information on what would be required if we're talking to a developer, if they came to us with a question that's similar to a resident where you said under exemptions, they're asking for like a simple permit that we need to go to staff with, or they're almost calling us as a constituent more than they are as a developer. I would want to know the difference, because if they're calling us for a simple question that's gonna go to staff anyhow, then how do we decipher between them being a lobbyist and just asking a question that a resident would be asking us?
Through you, Mayor Burton. So that was actually a really big concern that staff raised when we were having consultations with staff, in terms of how do I know when they should have filed or when they need to register. In the framework, we do speak to, in the bylaw, I should say, we do speak to exempted activities. And so that's where you can get into activities such as, are they asking for routine information? And so if it's routine information that staff would provide or council would provide to any individual asking, then that would be an activity that is exempted. Members of council have access to the integrity commissioner. So if there's ever any concerns about which way should I go, they do have that option to reach out to the town's integrity commissioner to get that clarification. But that's where, again, we did find that in the municipal benchmarking, the onus did always fall on the lobbyist, because it is about the activity that is happening. And that's where the onus falls on the lobbyist. And council or staff or any individual who is potentially in that situation, they can make that reminder. We do have a lobbyist registry if one exists, and direct them to the registry. But that's again where that 18-month implementation timeline is so important from what we've done, what we've seen, because that education and the training is so imperative in order to make it successful.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Knoll.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you for the chart of other municipal experiences. That's very helpful to see what other municipalities are doing. Do we have any anecdotal or empirical data as to what the experience has been of these organizations? This is all very statistical information. Have we actually been able to get any anecdotal information about how these municipalities feel that their implementation worked, what their problems were with it, benefits, disadvantages, whether it's actually moved the bar at all in terms of transparency in their communities?
Through you, Mayor Burton, we actually had many consultations with most of the municipalities that have registries, and most of the municipalities did say all of the work, all of the effort came in establishing it and rolling it out. Afterwards, in a way, many municipalities said the registry kind of runs itself. What we were really surprised about is the complaints. So if a complaint were to come in that somebody perhaps lobbying happened and it wasn't recorded, there were very few municipalities who had many complaints logged at all. And I know, if I'm not mistaken, in Vaughan's case, they had their first complaint, I believe, in 2025, and they've had it for many years.
So, hold on, so you're saying that Vaughan's the only place that's had a complaint,
No,
Sorry,
through,
maybe I missed, sorry, sorry, I put two and two together there. So, but Vaughan specifically had one complaint, first one ever in 2025. How long did you say that they had the registry?
excuse me. Through you, Mayor Burton, they've had it for a few years, at least 6, I believe, but I would have to double check my notes.
Okay. Thank you. I just want to, a couple of comments. Councillor Nanda and Councillor Adams are in a similar line of questioning with respect to the, who you're actually, what gets captured as lobbying. And one of the things that I've always had a problem with this discussion is that at the very heart of what a councillor is at times is an advocate. Whether it's advocating for a constituent who has a beef with a staff member or wants to learn more about how something operates, and maybe the information that we have is not what is in a pamphlet, but it's that information that we've gleaned after 5, 10, 15 years in the job. So where is that line? And I guess this is one question I would like to have clarified. And how do you differentiate our job, which is in many cases advocacy, versus what isn't our job, and that is putting undue influence? I think it's been stated a couple times that there's several corporate procedures, and then there's provincial law and the criminal code, all which have an impact on inappropriate conduct for councillors. So what does this do that isn't doing now? I guess is the other part. The other thing I'd like to hear come back from staff in the next iteration of this, whenever that happens, if it happens. Thank you.
And through you, Mayor Burton, if I may, we've just confirmed it's 2017 is when Vaughan established their 2017 is when Vaughan established their registry. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Chisholm.
Thank you, Worship. Just to follow up with some questions with respect to the registry. This has come about, it's a large administrative function. I see it coming down. Okay, aside from the administrative function, the reality check here is saying we have to put this in place. Have we received, or within our dealings with the town, complaints about lobbying? Have we had challenges? Have we had debate that necessitates us to move in this direction?
Through you, Mayor Burton, I'll ask Will Short to comment.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Chisholm, and through you, Mr. Mayor. The reason that staff looked into this lobbyist registry proposal was the notice of motion that was brought forward in June by Councillors Duddick and Elgar, and that was the only reason that staff brought forward this report.
Okay, so within our operation, we have not had data, information with respect to concerns about lobbying concerns. Is that correct?
Through you, Mayor Burton, if any were received, I would not be aware of any.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, Councillor Elgar.
Thanks through you, Mayor Burton. This is taking a bit longer than we thought, but I was just looking up who has lobbyist registers, or are we kind of the wingdings of Ontario, but Toronto, Ottawa, Hamilton, Burlington, Brampton, Vaughan, Pickering, Barrie, Peel Region, Niagara Region, Region of Waterloo, which our clerk came from recently and was very involved in that from the beginning, and smaller municipalities, Collingwood, et cetera. The whole, it seems like maybe Oakville might be the outlier right now. And the whole idea of the lobbying registry, it was who is lobbying, whom are they lobbying, and on what topic. It does not limit access to of councillors or staff or anything. I just can't figure out where this is going. And this was brought, it was June of 2025, and everybody agreed with it then, but it seems like, I don't know. Anyway, when we finally get to do something, I want a recorded vote on this, but I appreciate that. Thank you.
So I should, I'm going to wear out the button on that microphone. Councillor Elgar, thank you. Councillor Lischina, and then Councillor Haslett-Thiel.
I guess what I know now and I didn't know back then was that it is so costly. But I also just because Councillor Algar just pointed out about the municipalities, I'm also curious then with respect to policy-based alternatives that we have almost 10 pages of all the different policies specifically talking about transparency and accountability, if these exist in all these other municipalities or not. And again, it was also very telling that we haven't had any complaints or someone saying someone's being greased or something to the effect. But I do want to hear from the Integrity Commissioner on a yearly basis of what is actually being complained about and being dismissed, because I think that's just as important, because no evidence was found. So again, my objection is that this is huge taxpayer dollars. We have 10 pages worth of internal policy-based alternatives, and I just have a hard time with this.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hazlett-Thiel.
Thank you, Mayor Burton. Just in response to a couple comments that were made, one of the reasons some of these these municipalities, the overwhelming large number of them in Ontario, may not have had a complaint is they have a registry, and the public can look at it and say, oh, they're meeting with X, Y, or Z, and they're declaring it, and it represents and reinforces a level of transparency that, as Councillor Duddick said, we need to encourage people to have an awareness of, trust in. The reason I raise accountability as a councillor is that while we can always turn to the lobbyist and remind them that there is a registry and they need to record it at the time, we also have an accountability across the table to be transparent that yes, we met with X and we had a conversation about their application relative to the current zoning or the current official plan. Not hard to do, relatively seamless to do, and again reflects transparency to the public. So I understand the taxpayer and relate to the investment of the taxpayer, which is one of the reasons I asked the question. And perhaps we should ask on a ballot how people would respond to it, a legitimate way to get public feedback, depending on how a question is framed, and another option to consider. In my mind, you can have all the policies in the world. The accountability rests with us as elected officials to make sure that we are prepared to record. And to the comment about we go to events and somebody might pull us aside and say, hey, what are you thinking about? We're all intelligent. We all have the capability of knowing that that was more than just a sidebar conversation. Somebody wanted to, perhaps they suggested paying for dinner. Perhaps they suggested something else. Declaring that just raises the bar in terms of trust and accountability to our constituents.
All right, I think everybody's had at least 2 goes at this. Councillor Lischina, do you have anything new to say? You're on mute, so whatever it is, we're not hearing it.
Sorry. Well, yes, Andrew had mentioned that we've not had complaints. We all see from the residents that they're highly intelligent, they're highly engaged. They would have complained if they were seeing something. I just can't say that they said, well, we're not going to complain and wait till a registry shows up. I don't see that happening. So we haven't had anybody complain about this, and they're highly engaged and they know what's going on. Very intelligent people. So I'm surprised to hear that some of the comments that, we really need this because it's the only way for them to complain. They can complain now, and they do, and we hear them. So thank you.
All right, thanks. I think we've got to the point where we can confine this to table or rather stop the debate. Councillor Duddick, as the mover,
I'm,
what is,
I'm
what is,
willing to, I'm willing to move it, your worship.
yes?
But if there's somebody who has a friendly amendment, unlike, as you pointed out, item 3, that might be contrary to the motion, I'm willing to go for what is being proposed.
All right, well, it's my opinion as your chair that the complexity here, I think, requires actual amendments that are moved and seconded and voted. I don't think we're
Okay.
out of the woods on understanding.
Okay, fair
I don't see
point.
a consensus here. So a way to proceed is to, the motion is items 1, 2, 3, and 4 from Councillor Duddick and Councillor Elgar.
Correct.
Item 3, part number 3, says, staff be directed to report back to council by Q2 2026 with a proposed lobbyist registry bylaw to formally establish a lobbyist and gift registry with the bylaw to come into full effect in Q3 2027, as per the staff report on that point. So if you're passing a bylaw on or about or shortly after June, which would be the end of Q2, having a referendum on what you've already done doesn't make a lot of sense. And that's why I suggested that having a ballot question contradicts item number 3. Unless the ballot question becomes, did we do a good job? Or some other kind of thing, but it was worded as a ballot question to guide council on whether to do it or not. And that's why I said that looks contradictory. Councillor Elgar has called for a recorded vote. Councillor Haslett-Deal is recognized.
So, Mayor Burton, so from an election perspective, I could see that as wanting to be needing to be a separate vote. However, I think it is a friendly amendment to add that staff report back on the option of including councillors. I'll read the exact amount if I can get to it here. Hang on. Basically, that councillors have an accountability, include that councillors have an accountability to report as well when they report back in Q2.
All right, Councillor, is there a seconder for your amendment?
I don't understand.
Pardon?
Sorry.
I don't know who's speaking. Oh. Councillor Duddick?
Sorry? No, I thought Councillor Giddings was giving you a second
Oh, I didn't.
on the amendment. My apologies.
I didn't actually see that, nor hear it, but now I've seen it and almost heard it. Thank you. All right. I'd ask the mover and seconder to clarify. Are you going to give staff, can you flesh that out, Annie, so that somebody understands whether councillors are disclosing every contact they have with anybody in the world? How do they decide who they're disclosing their contacts with? The mover of the amendment, I think, is the one I'm asking the question of.
Look at your email.
Councillor Haslett-Deal?
So I'll read, you had mentioned drafting something. So that staff provide an option that includes an accountability for councillors to report their meetings with lobbyists as defined within the policy. And so speaking to the education and that other pieces that that Andrea has so appropriately raised, that we add in a on the a fifth, that staff provide an option that includes an accountability for councillors to report their meetings with lobbyists as defined within the policy. If the mover and seconder don't see that as a friendly amendment, I'm fine that it stands as a separate amendment, but
Councillor, we don't have friendly amendments officially. It's your chair that's saying, I think we should record this as an actual amendment. I don't want to, you know, I don't want to put the mover and seconder of the main motion in the doghouse here on this. I'm the dog in this particular matter. So what's on the floor is the amendment by Councillor Hazard-Thiel, and thank you, Councillor Hazard-Thiel, for the full wording, which I didn't hear the first time, which makes it plain, and I understand it, and so I'm only recognizing speakers to Councillor Hazard-Thiel and Giddings' amendment. Councillor Lischina.
Okay, well, I was getting confused, and so my question is, could those all be separated to vote? Because if I support 1 and 2, but not 3 and 4, and now I'm not sure what 5 is. Is 5 part of an actual registry, or is it not? Like, is it a policy-based thing? So I'm confused.
Councillor, under our rules, every motion can be split into its parts and voted separately. So the answer to that question is yes, it can be, on request, split into parts. And it doesn't need a vote to split in any member.
Can I request?
You've been heard to request it.
Thank you.
It's requested and done. 5 is clause 5 of, it's the amendment, proposed amendment is to add a clause 5 to the main motion that would read as Councillor Hazard-Thiel has read out last. And I take it the clerk has a copy of that? Councillor Hazard-Thiel, would you?
I'll make sure it gets over there.
And then the clerk can provide everybody a copy, and we're not going to vote on it until everybody's got the proper paperwork here. Councillor Mira, on the amendment?
Yeah, I'd just like to know from staff, what are the cost implications of this for software, for administrative, for having this up publicly? I'm assuming there's going to be financial costs associated with this, and I'd like to know what we're going to look for on that one.
Through you, Mayor Burton, if I understand the motion, it is a lobbyist registry that places the accountability on elected officials only. Am I correct?
No. The words, well, pending getting a copy, which is something so I'm just going to go on what I heard from the mover. The clause, the amendment, asks staff to bring back an option within the lobbyist registry so that councillors also must report their contact with any lobbyists on the registry. Is that right? All right. And it's now been circulated. So we're all happy, at least to the degree that we understand things together, right? Okay. Councillor Grant.
Thank you. To the motion, maybe to everything. Fred Oliver once cautioned us from making or hammering together motions at the last minute in this fashion. Everybody throwing something in and then everybody trying to understand what the implications are. I'm wondering if it would not be more prudent for us to all put forward our suggestions now, move this to the next cycle so we have a chance to examine what each of these motions could mean, how the final cost could work out, and at least have a better understanding of what we're voting on.
All right. Councillor, it's out of order because the only thing on the floor, unless you want to defer, unless you want to refer to another cycle, the amendment, it's out of order because we're talking only about the amendment here. But it would be in order. It would be in order to make that comment when we get back to the main event, if we ever do. All right. I will, unless someone objects, I'm going to call a vote on the proposed amendment.
A recorded vote, please, Mayor Burton.
Yes, yes, ma'am. Mr. Clerk, would you please call the vote on the amendment?
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor O'Meara,
No.
Councillor McNeice, Councillor McNeice,
Yes.
Councillor Dudek,
Yes?
Councillor Chisholm,
No.
Councillor Hazat-Thiel,
Yes.
Councillor Giddings,
Yes.
Councillor Elger,
Yes.
Councillor Longo,
Yes.
Mayor Burton,
Yes.
Councillor Knoll,
Yes.
Councillor Grant,
Yes.
Councillor Adams,
No?
Councillor Lashina,
No.
Councillor Nanda,
Yes.
and Councillor Shi.
No.
That carries, Mayor.
Thank you. Now, Councillor Grant, you wanted to defer this a cycle, and I heard that as a motion, and if someone seconds it, that's the next item of business, and Councillor Lashina has just seconded it. That makes it the next order of business. Do we require a recorded vote on this? Oh, sure. Councillor Elger requires a recorded vote. Mr. Clerk, would you this matter to the next council meeting for the sake, apparently, of sober second thought and greater study? I merely repeat what I think I've heard. So I want to, if no one else will speak on the motion to defer, I will take a moment to say just two things. I no longer can remember the year, but some time ago, and I think it was 12 or 13 years ago, the then seven members of Halton Region who come from Oakville went down 7-14 in a losing effort to create a lobbyist registry at the region of Halton. Some of us may remember that.
I see.
At the time, I, as a member of that group, felt that if we were going to have such a thing, it ought to be, because we're a two-tier municipality, and the things we're concerned about happen at both levels, especially around lobbying, and especially, I mean, the greatest issue around lobbying, it seems to me, has always been on the procurement side. And both of us spend hundreds of millions of dollars. And so I've always thought it'd be quite good if we were consistent at both levels of the municipality, rather than only one. And that confusion and loopholes would result from only doing one. And the failure there kind of collapsed that. I will note that our neighbors in Burlington decided to go ahead anyway, despite the omission at the upper level. And I still believe that if we do one here, the next step ought to be to make it consistent at both levels. And now that we have our friends in Burlington, there's 7 of them now, and we're 8 now at the region of Halton. And it takes 13 to do anything at Halton's table, and 7 and 8 is 15, and we might be able to do it, what we couldn't do before. And so I'm going to vote in support of the deferral for the I think, good suggestion that Councillor Grant has made to work on this just a little more among ourselves. But I will be supporting the creation of the lobbyist registry because I thought it was a good idea 12 or 13 years ago, and I haven't changed my mind. So with that, Mr. Clerk, would you please call the, Councillor Dudek? I'm sorry.
Oops, sorry. Hold on, I'm back. Pokeroo. My only question is, if we refer it, and I think where you're going, Your Worship, is that we raise it again at the regional level in the no? I see. Okay. Because I thought you were inferring that given Burlington's already passed one, we might get something approved at Halton Region.
Oh, I believe that, but only after we've done ours.
Okay, but you just said it's Okay, now I'm confused because
So-
I thought you were inferring that there's no point one level doing it unless you have both. And so regardless,
I believe that we can't get one at the region of Halton until we've got one in Oakville, because then
Thank you.
we can
Thank
add
you.
7 and 8 and maybe get
Yep,
13.
Yep. Okay, thank you. I hear you.
That's allowing for a few dropouts or losses along the way. To go 7 and 8 is at least 13. Councillor Grant.
And again, the only reason I want to defer this is because I think this is important, but important enough that we can't just keep trying to talk over each other and figure out what we think's the best plan. Let's put something together properly and then have that in front of us to discuss, instead of everybody tossing out different ideas we're going along. That's my only point.
All right, well, I'm going to support your deferral motion, despite the fact that I actually believe that it's been a constructive and creative conversation that's gotten us from point A to a better point B. But maybe that's only me. Councillor Elgar.
Mayor Burton, I'm just trying to understand, what is staff going to do, bring back in the next council meeting? Will they have time to do anything on
No.
that point?
No, this is not a referral, it's a deferral.
Oh, deferral doesn't have to come back next year?
It's coming back at the next council meeting.
Council meeting.
With no new information from staff. This is council deferring it.
So what is council wanting to learn then? Because if there's going to be absolutely no new information coming from staff, I don't want, talk about wasting time. Why are we doing this then? Why are we referring or deferring it?
Councillor Grant has spoken about it.
Okay,
Councillor Elgar,
okay, I'm ready to vote, no problem.
Councillor, vote against it.
It's a recorded vote.
It's a recorded vote, and if we put our hands down, Councillor Elgar, the clerk will proceed.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay.
Your worship, can you read back the deferral, please?
I would if I had it, but Councillor Grant, would you please read your motion?
Yes, I've got it written right here. That this defer back to staff for one cycle so that we can take.
No.
You didn't say back to staff.
Sorry.
Defer just means
right.
We're putting it off to the next council meeting.
Basically, so that we all have time to take a look at all the different suggestions and understand the implications.
Yes. Yeah. So Councillor Chisholm. Okay. Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor O'Meara on Councillor Grant's deferral.
No.
Councillor McNeice.
Yes.
Councillor Duddick.
No.
Councillor Chisholm.
No.
Councillor Hazit Thiel.
No.
Councillor Giddings.
No.
Councillor Elgar.
No.
Councillor Longo.
No.
Mayor Burton.
Yes.
Councillor Knoll.
No.
Councillor Grant.
Yes.
Councillor Adams.
Yes.
Councillor Lashina.
Yes.
Councillor Nanda.
Yes.
And Councillor Shi.
Yes.
It's the deferral motion is defeated.
All right. Now, the main motion. Do we have I believe we have a main motion. Mr. Clerk, can you make that available to the public and to council on the screen, perhaps?
Just 1 minute,
But, Your worship, with these recommendations, we separate them out and vote individually in each one, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Councillor Lishchyna beat you to the punch on that. But it's still true that we'll do that.
Thank you.
Councillor Lishchyna.
I just want clarification. The one that was the friendly amendment with the council included, is that part of the registry or is that?
You're going to see it?
Because I remember Andrew saying that would be an indirect way. So now that's why I voted against if it was part of a registry. But now I'm trying to understand, is it really or is it not?
Councillor, let's get it on the screen. I believe you'll see from the words on the screen when we get them there. How long do you think it'll take to get it on the screen? Maybe council needs a 5-minute recess while the clerks screen this, to use a different word, meaning of the word screen. All right, council, you're in recess till 8:15. This is your bio break chance.
Recording stopped.
The clerks have obliged us with the motion. It's on the screen. If it were on the outgoing screen, I'd like it even more. It is now. There, thank you. The procedure here is we're having a recorded vote separated on each piece. I will tell you that if I do not believe, I'm not saying anything about what'll pass or not. I'm not making any forecasts. I'm only going to tell you that procedurally, if 3 does not pass, 4 and 5 become moot and no vote will be conducted on them. All right? Everybody's clear on that? And is everybody in their places? I'm going to come to Councillor O'Meara's question in just 1 second. Councillor Adams, can you light your camera? This way the world at home now knows that everybody's here. Councillor O'Meara, you have the floor. Although you're interrupting a vote, so it needs to be procedural.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to speak to this yet, so speak to the main item here. Is that appropriate now, or are we just going to go right into a vote?
No, I think that's a good idea. You should speak to the main motion. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I do want to thank staff and Andrea for a very good report. I'm going to be supporting the original 2 proposals that staff put forward. I think they've got the ability to ensure that we're heading down the path with our policies in place. At this point, I cannot support spending more money on doing stuff that our staff said we don't need to do right now. We've got a good handle on it. So that's the reason for my votes tonight, and I just wanted to have that on the record. So thank you very much, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. I think that's a valuable thing to hear. And I will say that one of the things, I spoke earlier about the attempt 15 years ago to introduce this concept at the region. The local municipality in Burlington responded by adopting their own. We responded by tightening up all these other procedures that we're so proud of, and that the staff have made quite a point of calling our attention to. So, Councillor O'Meara, I certainly understand and even tempted to support this in your way. Any other speakers?
Voting from number 1 down or from number 5 backwards?
We're voting from number 1 down.
Just wanted to know.
Just
because if we go to 3 and it's
that's why we're starting at number 1.
I see where you're going.
And number 2, and number 3. Councillor Duddick.
Thank you, Your Worship. Could you just ask through you to staff whether they were recommending not to go forward with this? Councillor O'Meara indicated that they were not supportive. And I just want to get clarity whether or not they were supportive or not. I thought the decision rests with council.
Councillor, I did not hear Councillor O'Meara say anything like that. Councillor O'Meara, do you want to weigh in on what you said?
No, I support what staff's recommendation was initially. So that was it. So.
Okay, that's fine.
Councillor Hilger, if you go to page 6 of the report and read the topic sentence now.
Mayor Burton, I was part of the meeting with the clerk and with Andrea, and I was sitting with them and understanding things better. They were absolutely in agreement with 1, 2, 3, and 4, as I understand it. And I stand to be corrected if I am incorrect there, because I'd like to get that on the public record.
Councillor, what they wrote is on page 6, I believe, and there's an introductory sentence, and from memory, I paraphrase, if council wishes, you can add these 2 things, is what it says.
You are correct.
The
But it also, when we talked privately with the 2 staff members, they said they had no problem with adding that into the main motion. as I understand it. I just want to hear it from them, please.
I'll just say, one of the problems with private conversations is the rest of council didn't hear it.
That is exactly why I'm raising it right now, so the rest of council can hear it.
All right. The councillor wishes to, Madam Clerk. Mr. Clerk, the councillor wants to know if the staff are recommending, what's your exact question? Do they support 3 and 4?
That's absolutely correct. It's very simple.
Yeah, so the staff recommendation in items 1 and 2 were as read in the report, and and the report continues to read that if council is to wish to implement a lobbyist registry, 3 and 4 are the items that you need to have as part of that recommendation to implement the lobbyist registry. Both parts are in the report.
So, for clarity for the public, they're not taking a position. That's council's job. And I continue to rule that all that Councillor O'Meara did was say, if you read the report, they recommended 1 and 2. And I'm good with that. That's what he said. And he made no disparagement about anything. He just said what he supported. It's proper parliamentary procedure. All right, Councillor Adams.
I just wanted to clarify. So my understanding is that staff's recommendation were 1 and 2. They did not recommend 3 and 4 for the reasons outlined in the report, that there are these other things that they recommend we do instead. So that's the recommendation. That's what they supported. And while they could do 3 and 4, it's not what they recommended and supported.
That is what I heard the clerk to just say. And Mr. Clerk, you're on the floor again.
Yeah, that is accurate, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that clarification.
Okay, so we've, any other speakers for or against the motion? If not, Mr. Clerk, would you like to call the vote?
Yeah, so the recorded vote on the first item, do you want me to read that in, or are we good for everybody on what the first item is?
Let's read it,
That
even though it's
council
on the screen.
That council received for information the lobbyist and gift registry framework as outlined in Appendix A of the Clerk's Department report dated January 13th, 2026. Councillor O'Meara.
Yes.
Councillor McNeese.
Yes.
Councillor Duddick.
Yes.
Councillor Chisholm.
Yes.
Councillor Hazett-Thiel.
Yes.
Councillor Giddings.
Yes.
Councillor Elgar.
Yes.
Councillor Longo.
Yes.
Mayor Burton.
Yes.
Councillor Knoll.
Yes.
Councillor Grant.
Yes.
Councillor Adams.
Yes.
Councillor Lashina.
Yes.
Councillor Nanda.
Yes.
And Councillor Shi.
Yes.
That is carried, Mayor.
Thank you. The motion, that clause carries. Mr. Clerk, would you please call the vote on clause 2?
Clause 2, that staff be directed to report back to council by Q2 2027 with proposed internal policy enhancements aimed at strengthening accountability and transparency in municipal decision-making processes. Councillor O'Meara.
Yes.
Councillor McNeese.
Yes.
Councillor Duddick.
Yes.
Councillor Chisholm.
Yes.
Councillor Hazett-Thiel.
Yes.
Councillor Giddings.
Yes.
Councillor Elgar.
Yes.
Councillor Longo.
Yes.
Mayor Burton.
Yes.
Councillor Knoll.
Yes.
Councillor Grant.
Yes.
Councillor Adams.
Yes.
Councillor Lashina.
Yes.
Councillor Nanda.
Yes.
And Councillor Shi.
Yes.
That carries, Mayor.
All right. That's 2.
Item 3, that staff be directed to report back to council by Q2 2026 with a proposed lobbyist registry bylaw to formally establish a lobbyist and gift registry, with the bylaw to come into full effect in Q3 2027. Councillor O'Meara.
No.
And Councillor McNeese.
Yes.
Councillor Duddick.
Yes.
Councillor Chisholm.
No.
Councillor Hazett-Thiel.
Yes.
Councillor Giddings.
Yes.
Councillor Elgar.
Yes.
Councillor Longo.
Yes.
Mayor Burton.
No.
Councillor Knoll.
No.
Councillor Grant.
No.
Councillor Adams.
No.
Councillor Lashina,
No.
Councillor Nanda,
No.
Councillor Shi.
No.
And that is lost, which then puts items 4 and 5 as out of order, Mayor.
All right, thank you, everybody. The next item of business is 11.3, the business licensing bylaw. We have a staff presentation. Stephen Rosati, the Manager of Strategy, Licensing, and Business Services. Mr. Rosati, we look forward to your presentation.
All right, good evening. Come on, we're good. Good evening, Mayor Burton and members of council. My name is Stephen Rosati, and I'm the Manager of Strategy, Licensing, and Business Support for Municipal Enforcement Services. I haven't met everyone, so pleasure to meet everyone. I'm here tonight to present the proposed bylaw for business licensing for your consideration. Next slide, please. The ask of council tonight will be to approve the new business licensing bylaw number 2026-012 and repeal the current business licensing bylaw 2015-75 and approve bylaw 2016-013, a new bylaw to amend the municipal powers and duties bylaw 2013-21, which will grant the director of MES delegated authority to extend business licenses in the event of an emergency. Next slide, please. Before we move on to the presentation, I'd like to take a moment to review some key milestones, excuse me, that have brought us here to this point tonight. The review of the business licensing bylaw began in 2020. Public open houses were held and a questionnaire was developed and administered with support from the BIAs and the Oakville Chamber of Commerce. Over 350 responses were received, providing valuable input from our business community. In January 2022, a business licensing update report was presented to council. This report outlined recommendations and sought council's feedback to guide the continued development of the bylaw. In November of 2022, Municipal Enforcement Services engaged with private parking enforcement companies and existing payday loan establishments to inform them of the proposed bylaw to include these types of businesses in the bylaw. In June of 2024, a draft version of the bylaw was presented to council for review and feedback. At the same time, additional input was requested from all licensees and all businesses that would be newly licensed under the proposed bylaw, such as mobile motor vehicle services and mobile personal services. In September 2025, MES hosted information sessions inviting council members, BIA representatives, and the Oakville Chambers of Commerce to provide additional feedback on the proposed bylaw. Their input was instrumental in refining the final draft, which is presented to you this evening. Next slide. Over the next several slides, we will highlight some key changes included in the proposed bylaw, the proposed business licensing bylaw. While most of the bylaw remains unchanged, there are several notable updates that we believe warrant additional attention and discussion. Next slide. Actually, no, you got it. The first key change deals with insurance requirements. So licensees are required to have public liability insurance to protect the public, the business, and the town for potential financial risks associated with accidents, injuries, and property damage, or other claims that may occur in conjunction with the operation of the business. This ensures that there are sufficient financial resources to cover the claim or legal costs if one should arise. The proposed bylaw introduces an increase in public liability coverage to $5 million instead of the current $2 million requirement. This change aligns with the town's broader insurance standards applied to special events and procurement processing, ensuring adequate financial protection for the public, businesses, and the town. Feedback from this proposed change was mixed. Some expressed concerns about additional costs, while others support the change, noting that it follows industry standards and provides appropriate protections for all. Next slide, please. The second key change deals with criminal record checks. Under the current bylaw, many licensees are required to submit a criminal record check, both when applying for a new license and annually at renewal. MES received feedback questioning the need for yearly checks, particularly from licensees whose business activities do not involve vulnerable populations or entering private residences. To address this, the new bylaw is proposing a 3-year cycle for criminal record checks for business classes that do not deal in vulnerable situations. These businesses would still need to submit a valid criminal record check with their initial application. However, in years 2 and 3 of their license renewal, they would only need to submit a self-declaration confirming they have not been convicted of offenses under the Criminal Code, the Controlled Drug and Substance Act, or where applicable, the Highway Traffic Act. A new criminal record check would then be required in year 4 of the license renewal, and the cycle would repeat as long as the license remains valid. Certain businesses will continue to require to submit an annual criminal record check, such as taxi drivers and lodging houses, due to the nature of their work. MES is also proposing that criminal record checks completed by approved third-party providers be accepted, rather than solely relying on the checks issued by police services. Businesses have told us that obtaining checks through police services can take several weeks, where a third-party provider is often able to deliver results much faster, sometimes in minutes. To qualify, a third-party provider must be approved by the licensing commissioner and must obtain criminal record information from the RCMP's National Repository of Criminal Records. We're also proposing to increase the validity of criminal record checks to 90 days, up from the current 30-day requirement. This will allow additional time and flexibility for applicants to gather all required documents for the license application. Additionally, MES is proposing to remove the requirement for a separate criminal check for driving instructors. Instructors must be licensed by the province, and in order to obtain the provincial license, they must meet conviction thresholds under the Highway Traffic Act. Instructors still must submit a copy of their valid provincial license when applying to operate in Oakville. MES is also recommending that private parking enforcement officers be permitted to submit a valid provincial security license in place of a criminal record check. Similar to driving instructors, to obtain a provincial security license, officers must complete a criminal record and judicial matters check. These changes will reduce costs and duplication for the applicant and still maintain public safety standards. Next slide, please. Another key change in the proposed bylaw deals with license renewal dates. Under the current bylaw, each business class has a fixed license renewal date. So for example, all food shop licenses expire on January 31st of the year. This has raised concerns among businesses that obtain a license midterm. For instance, a new food shop licensed in August would still need to renew in January at full rate for both transactions. Fixed renewal rates also create an uneven workload distribution for the licensing team, with peaks and valleys throughout the year, depending on which business classes are scheduled to renew each month. Under the proposed bylaw, renewals will now occur on the anniversary of the license issuance date. This will provide a fair process for businesses that obtain licenses mid-year, while spreading out the workload for town staff more evenly throughout the year. Automated email reminders will still continue to be sent to remind businesses of their upcoming renewal date in efforts to support compliance. Also, during the first year of implementation of the new bylaw, any endorsements will temporarily be aligned with a primary license to ensure continuity of the business licenses. Next slide. All right, one of the most significant proposed changes is the introduction of endorsements. Currently, businesses that engage in multiple related activities must obtain a separate license for each one. For example, A gas station that also sells cigarettes is required to apply for both a motor vehicle facility license and a tobacco retailer license. This means submitting 2 applications with similar documentation and paying fees for each license, resulting in unnecessary duplication. The proposed bylaw introduces a more streamlined approach to the use of endorsements for certain business classes. In the gas station example, the business would obtain a motor vehicle facility license as its primary activity and simply add an endorsement for tobacco sales. The endorsement license would be offered at a reduced fee and would eliminate the need to apply for 2 separate licenses, while still fulfilling the requirements that would apply if the licenses were obtained individually. Endorsements streamline the licensing process by reducing administrative burdens for both businesses and staff. They eliminate repetitive paperwork and duplicative processes, creating a more efficient and user-friendly experience. Business owners will also benefit from having a single annual renewal date because endorsements will align with the primary license expiry, meaning businesses will only need to track and renew 1 consolidated license each year. Next slide, please. All right, the next set of changes deals directly with food shops. The current bylaw includes 3 classes of food shops. We have food shop restaurant, which is an annual license, food shop ancillary, which is again an annual license, and a special event food shop, which is a per event license. The proposed bylaw introduces several updates to improve clarity and streamline licensing for food shops. First, renaming food shop ancillary to food shop convenience. This new title better reflects the nature of the business class. Second, we are introducing a new class called food stand. These are stationary food vehicles, for example, a chip truck permanently set up in private property parking lot. As these type of operations do not fall under the definition of a refreshment vehicle due to their stationary nature, nor do they meet the same regulatory or safety requirements as a traditional restaurant, their introduction of the food stand license allows us to properly regulate these operations. It ensures that food stands obtain all necessary approvals, such as zoning clearance, and meet required safety standards supporting safe operations that protect public interest. Finally, we are proposing the removal of the special event food shop license. This license will now be covered by a new license type called temporary food vendor license, which we will be reviewing in the upcoming slides. Next slide. The next set of changes deals directly with refreshment vehicles. Again, the current bylaw defines 4 classes of refreshment vehicles. Class A, which is a motorized vehicle such as food trucks. Class B, non-motorized vehicles such as hot dog carts. Class C, vehicles propelled by hand or bicycle, such as a bicycle ice cream vendor. And a special event refreshment vehicle, which covers classes A, B, or C operating at a specific event. Classes A, B, and C are all annual licenses, while the special event license is issued per event. The proposed bylaw will now group refreshment vehicles into 3 classes for better clarification. First is a catering truck. This is a truck that provides refreshments to construction sites only. Second, self-propelled refreshment vehicle. This would include all bicycles and push carts. And third, refreshment vehicle, which includes motorized vehicles or easily towable units like food trucks, ice cream trucks, and hot dog trailers. Again, you will notice that we removed the special event refreshment vehicle license. Much like the special event food shop license, the special event refreshment vehicle license will be replaced by the newly proposed temporary food vendor license, which we'll be discussing in the upcoming slides. Some other additional notes to mention regarding refreshment vehicles include all refreshment vehicles would require approval from the BIAs to operate within the BIA. Catering trucks are limited to serving active construction sites only. To maintain the mobile nature of a refreshment vehicle, it may only operate at the same location no more than 4 times per license term and for a maximum of 4 consecutive days each time. Criminal record checks for refreshment vehicles will follow the proposed 3-year cycle previously discussed. and a single license for a self-propelled refreshment vehicle will cover all units in the fleet. Therefore, individual bikes or carts will not require separate licenses. When it comes to exemptions to this license, no license is required if the refreshment vehicle is operating on private property at private functions that is not open to the general public. For example, catering a wedding or a birthday party. As mentioned in the previous slides concerning food shops, stationary refreshment vehicles would be required to obtain proper zoning approvals and safety checks and would now fall under the food shop schedule and require the food stand license. Next slide, please. The next set of slides, we're going to look at new business classes proposed to be introduced in the new bylaw, as well as recap the business classes that have been discontinued and will continue to be discontinued in the proposed bylaw. Next slide. The first new business class we will review is the attraction license. The current bylaw governing exhibitions and outdoor markets has at times caused confusion among applicants about which license category applies to their event. Additionally, the existing bylaw does not require organizers of public attractions held on private property, such as the Rib Fest, to obtain a license. Instead, the town has only been licensing the individual food vendors. To improve clarity and enhance oversight, the proposed bylaw introduces updated regulations that replace the existing schedules with two clearly defined categories: attractions and farmers markets. The new attractions category replaces the former exhibition and outdoor market license. An attraction is defined as a temporary event held on private property open to the public. Under the proposed changes, organizers of the attractions will now be required to obtain a license for each event, with each license being valid up to 4 consecutive days. Licensing the attraction allows the town to better understand the details of the event, including ensuring there's an adequate parking management plan, ensuring proper notifications to the health and fire services for inspection, to determine any other permits that may be required, such as noise exemption permits, and to obtain a complete list of all participating food vendors. When it comes to food vendors who only wish to participate in a single event, we have heard that the current licensing process can be time-consuming and costly. To reduce this burden, the proposed bylaw introduces two licensing exemptions for food vendors and attending an attraction. First, vendors who hold an equivalent valid business license from another Ontario municipality, or second, vendors who sell only low-risk prepackaged foods such as dry goods, chips, bottled beverages, and packaged candy that do not require any refrigeration or temperature control. These vendors will not be required to obtain a Town of Oakville license to participate on an attraction. Food vendors that already hold a valid Town of Oakville food shop or refreshment vehicle license may also participate at attractions without any additional requirements. Only food vendors that do not have a valid Town of Oakville license or a valid food-related business license from another Ontario municipality would be required to obtain a temporary food vendor license, again, which we're going to explain in the next slide. Town staff will work with the attraction organizer to ensure all applicable food vendors attending the attraction meet licensing requirements at least 7 days prior to the event start date, or the vendor may not be able to participate. Exemptions from an attraction license would include town-run events, events held on town property under a town-issued permit, or private events on private property not open to the public. Again, examples are weddings and birthday parties. For attractions held by religious institutions on their own premises, or by educational facilities under a school board or the Ministry of Education, provided they are for educational and fundraising purposes, and attractions held by registered charities will still be required to obtain an attraction license, but it will be offered at a reduced fee. Next slide. 1 second. All right, so now we get to the new temporary food vendor. The temporary food vendor license is a new license class designed for food vendors who wish to operate at a licensed attraction or an event held on town property under a valid town permit. And they do not hold either a valid Oakville license for refreshment vehicle or food shop, or they do not hold a valid equivalent license issued by another Ontario municipality. This license is also available to individuals who wish to operate at a temporary event held on private property, where the vendor is invited by a business, organization, or property owner to sell food or beverages to the public for the purpose of marketing, promotion, or customer engagement, referred to as a promotional sales event. For promotional sales events, equivalent licenses from other Ontario municipalities will not be accepted. Unlike attractions which have designed designated organizers responsible for collecting and submitting proof of vendor licensing, promotional food sales typically do not have a central organizer. Because there is no single point of contact, the responsibility for verifying each vendor's license would fall onto the town staff, and this approach would be difficult to administer and enforce consistently. The licensing requirements for a temporary food vendor are similar to those of refreshment vehicles and food shop restaurants. These requirements ensure that the appropriate insurance coverage and health and safety checks are in place. Again, as mentioned in the previous slide, food vendors attending an attraction or town permitted event that will only be selling low-risk prepackaged foods that do not require refrigeration or any forms of temperature control will not be required to obtain a temporary food vendor license. Next slide. The next business class is a payday loan establishments. The June 2024 draft bylaw proposed limiting payday loan establishments to one per ward. At Council's request, MES reviewed this approach to better manage the distribution of licenses across Oakville. The proposed bylaw now allows for a total of 4 town-wide payday loan establishment licenses distributed as follows. 2 licenses for wards 1, 2, 4, and 7, known as Area 1, and 2 licenses for Ward 3, 5, and 6, known as Area 2. To minimize any potential of clustering and mitigate community impacts, the bylaw also introduces a minimum separation of 150 meters between any other payday loan establishment, public or private schools, and gaming establishments such as bingo halls with electronic gaming machines. Payday loan establishments that exist as of the date that the bylaw comes into force will be grandfathered in, provided that they hold a valid license from the province. No new licenses will be issued if doing so exceeds the limits set for Area 1 or 2. When a license does become available, it'll be issued on a first-come, first-served basis, and only if the number of operating establishments in the area falls under the permitted threshold. Currently, there are 3 provincially licensed payroll loan establishments operating in Oakville, 2 in Ward 2 and 1 in Ward 3. As a result, no new licenses would be available in Area 1 until one of the existing establishment either ceases operations or is no longer provincially licensed. Next slide. Next, we have private parking enforcement licenses. Currently, private parking enforcement companies or officers, known as MLEOs, do not require a business license. MLEOs are appointed by MES to enforce parking bylaws on private property by submitting an application, providing proof of insurance, and a criminal record check. Currently, there is no fee for this appointment and no annual renewal requirement. The proposed bylaw would have private parking enforcement companies and officers required to obtain a license in order to operate in Oakville. This would ensure only qualified individuals are operating. It will establish clear standards and expectations. It will streamline oversight. It will enable cost recovery for administrative efforts, and it will simplify the private parking enforcement program management for town staff. Some companies have expressed concerns about having to pay licensing fees, noting that the fines collected from the penalty notices issued by their officers is retained by the town. MES has clarified that the program is designed for cost recovery only, with fees covering administrative and enforcement costs to maintain sustainability and effectiveness of the program. Next slide, please. We're almost done. Next, we have mobile personal services and mobile vehicle service licenses. Mobile personal services refers to businesses that travel from place to place and provide personal care services such as haircuts, manicures, and pedicures. Applicants for a mobile personal service license must still submit health department approval. However, for these mobile operations, MES may accept valid health approvals issued outside of the Halton region. Applicants will still need to submit a criminal record and judicial matters check for each employee who will be providing the mobile service. A separate mobile license is not required if the business already holds a valid personal services establishment within the town. However, the business must still submit all documentation required for the mobile service portion of their operations. Mobile motor vehicle service refers to a business that performs light vehicle maintenance at a customer's location, such as tire changes, oil changes, battery replacement, or vehicle detailing. This license does not permit any form of heavy repair work, including body work or painting, engine or transmission replacement, welding activities, or any other work that creates excessive noise, fumes, or safety hazards. Additionally, services are permitted after 7 p.m. and not permitted on Sundays or statutory holidays. Also, to prevent residential properties from becoming makeshift garages, the vehicle reserving service must belong to a resident of the property where the work is being performed. Next slide. This slide provides a reminder of the business classes that Council recently approved for discontinuation in the October 6, 2025 Council report, in which MES conducted a comprehensive review of all existing licensed business classes. The review examined whether continued municipal licensing was still warranted by evaluating the presence of other regulatory framework, evolving industry or business models, and the overall public benefit derived from municipal licensing. The approval of the report resulted in the discontinuing of the following business classes: auctioneer, billiard hall, dry cleaner / laundrette, drain laying contractor, HVAC contractor, plumbing contractor, and bowling alley. The current bylaw was amended effective October 6, 2025, and these business classes have been removed. Next slide. If passed, the effective date for the proposed bylaw will be January 4th, 2027. This timeline is intentional due to the scope and complexity of the proposed changes, particularly the introduction of new endorsements. We need to ensure sufficient time for thorough testing, staff training, and clear communication to impacted businesses so they are well prepared for the transition. Between now and the effective date, several key deliverables must be completed, including updated business licensing web pages, updating the online licensing portal, configuring Amanda, preparing supporting documents and resources, developing a comprehensive communication plan, and conducting system testing and provide staff training. This phased approach will give us the time needed to implement the changes effectively in order to set up the program for long-term success. Next slide. Thank you for your time, and I'm now happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Rosati. That was a very good first presentation and a good debut performance, I guess, if we were in a different venue.
I even bought a new suit.
And you do have questions, and the forest of hands is growing before my eyes. Councillor Knoll, you get to go first.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you for your presentation today. First of all, thank you very much for the payday loan bylaw. That's been a long time in coming. We appreciate that very much. Somebody that worked hard on that years ago when we first started hearing concerns in our community about the usury that takes place at these payday loan establishments. Certainly hope the province will at some point step in and actually regulate to a higher degree what these companies are allowed to charge, because it's shocking and just puts people in poverty and deeper poverty. Anyway, getting on to my concerns. So the attraction license was something I raised last time as being a matter of concern. And some of the issues that I raised, I don't see them addressed in the report. I know that one of the issues, for example, was the $5 million insurance requirement, which I think you address universally, globally for all business licenses. The concern I raised at the time is that a lot of these smaller events, these community events, are organized by non-corporate entities, and they may not have the ability or the legal entity to get liability insurance. They may just deal with a liability through through their personal homeowners insurance, whatever the particular case is. There's a whole variety of different events that happen across the town on private property. I've been concerned about pigeonholing them on the insurance, but also on the requirement for incorporation. Did you give any special consideration for this issue when it came to developing this aspect of the bylaw?
In regards to the insurance
Insurance as well as the requirement for incorporation documents. I noticed in your document list, for example, it says if applicable, but it doesn't say that under incorporation.
So yeah, if during the, so I'll through you, Mayor Burton, to answer the second part of the question about the incorporated documents. Through the application process, we do ask the question, are you a sole proprietor, partnership, or incorporated business? If you are incorporated business, we do ask for a copy of the incorporated papers that go along with the application.
So to be consistent with the rest of the checklist that's in that document, you should probably put if applicable, because there's other documents where it says if applicable. So I think that one should state that as well. Do you have a category for unincorporated nonprofit organizations in that list of organizations on your checklist as well?
We will ask that question through the application process. If it's a registered charity, then we will offer the attraction license at a reduced fee.
Okay, what if it's not a licensed charity? For example, a local group raising money for, a cause. They're not directly a charity, and this happens all the time, whether it's local kids coming together to raise money for an animal shelter, or people selling books to raise money for somebody that, is facing a critical life, medical emergency or something, and these things do happen in our community. How would you address those?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you for that question, Councillor Knoll. Through you, Your Worship. That sort of circumstance has happened in the past, and we'll always look at it on whether or not they can have that charity submit perhaps a co-application that would entitle them to the discount that is now being proposed in the new bylaw. As far as adjustments to required documentation, the licensing commissioner also has the ability to alter certain qualifications as long as it doesn't impact safety. So there is some accommodation for unusual circumstances. I believe it's section 6.6 in the administration portion. That would allow the licensing commissioner some latitude as long as that's not impacted.
Okay, so following on the same category, I just want to ask you a couple of questions about different types of events and would that require a license, just so I get an understanding of what it is we're trying to capture here. So a school fun fair, I see that it's not town property, so it would be held on a school property. Would that require a license?
Through you, Your Worship, yes, that event would and may qualify for a discount.
And the discount's 50%?
Correct.
And I know that we have a separate process for establishing fees, but do you have any sense at this point what that fee might look like for those organizations?
At this point, we don't have the fees established. We are going to be working with the finance team to establish those. We tend to follow a cost recovery model. Obviously, it won't be full cost recovery with the discounted rates for this particular class, but we don't expect it to be particularly high, and that's why we've offered the reduced rate.
What about a street yard sale where neighbors come together and they all put their things out on their driveway and it becomes an event? They happen in our wards frequently.
Through Your Worship, no license would be required for garage sales.
Okay. And you did mention Ribfest, and full disclosure, I didn't declare pecuniary interest because I'm an organizer of the Ribfest, but I don't earn any revenue from it, sadly. But in the case of the Ribfest, what licenses, what would you require? What would they have to do now that they don't have to do? What would they have to do under the new licensing regime that they don't have to do today?
Certainly, through you, Your Worship. Right now, and RibFest, and they've been wonderful. They've actually already reached out to us to start organizing for this year. They would require the attraction license.
So-
Historically, that hasn't been a requirement for them. All of the vendors have licensed independently. And one of the reasons why we really looked at that attraction license was because we were dealing with the organization anyway. They were heavily involved in the licensing process. And this really allowed us to say, we're going to include you. We'll have the license. We'll have the overall event looked at. And not only that, we're going to accommodate certain food vendors that weren't previously accommodated to streamline their processes. And that goes back to Steve's presentation where he was saying, we'll now honor licenses from neighboring municipalities. So if the city of Burlington has a food vendor license and their license requirements are similar to ours, we will honor their license. Same with the small vendor that only has the prepackaged goods. So we would no longer require them to have a separate temporary vendor license. It would all be covered under the attraction. So that should streamline it and make it a little easier for the organizers.
Right, so that organization would own, the only additional piece that they would have to be concerned about, and other organizations like this, would be that master license, that overarching license.
Correct. If there was a requirement for an overarching business license, and in which case for many of these, that wouldn't be the case.
Well, in the case of RibFest, there would be. So that's the only additional piece, plus the cost that goes along with that.
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
But the corporation documents would be something that would be separate. That would fall under the exemption.
Is there any discretion on the part of the licensing commissioner to talk about, or not commissioner, licensing?
Licensing commissioner,
It's licensing
that's correct.
commissioner. Is there any, you said there's some flexibility. Is there any flexibility for the waiver of fees at any point? So for example, a local group raising money for, raising money for somebody who requires special medical treatment. It's one of those exceptional circumstances where this could actually end the event, in the sense that they wouldn't necessarily be able to jump through the hoops, or necessarily be able to have the money to be able to pay for that fee. Is there any flexibility in that regard based on the scale of the event, maybe?
Through you, your worship, at this point, the only exemptions are as was specified as far as the registered charities, the education. I think that was.
But those aren't exemptions, those are
Sorry,
discounts.
the registered charities. Those are the only discounted rates. Licensing commissioner does not have the authority to alter rates approved by council.
Okay, thank you. I mean, from an administrative perspective, it sounds like a good idea to keep everything coordinated. I do agree with that. Having been involved in RibFest and other large events, the coordination of several different resources is often challenging, and you find out in the last minute that you need something you didn't know you needed. So this is going to be helpful in that regard. I am concerned with this bylaw that it's going to catch smaller events that wouldn't necessarily be able to jump through the hoops, or wouldn't necessarily be able to afford, frankly, to jump through the hoops when there isn't an inherent safety risk involved, or food safety risk involved. So I'm just concerned there's not enough flexibility in this to really be able to support those smaller events that are going to maybe go by the wayside.
Through your worship, thank you for those comments, and we'll certainly look at that as we develop the rates and fees.
Okay, and it'd be good to keep an eye on those particular events. So if you do have those, record them so we can have a look at that going forward.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Worship.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Elgar, do you have are there any questions left?
Well, my question is, raising the insurance from 2 million to 5 million, I'm wondering what percentage of the people only carry 2 million? And do we have a ballpark of what the cost would be going from 2 million to 5 million? Like, do we have any idea how that could impact a very small person?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Burton. The number of businesses that carry 2 million would be hard to pull. We don't, unless we go through every single insurance document that is submitted to us through the license application process to pull that data, so it'd be hard to say an exact number. I can tell you that many have already started, or have been for many years, providing 5, 10 million, depending on the type of businesses they are in. In regards to additional fees, we've been told through our risk management team, you're looking at probably about $40 to $50 additional fee per year, but that's also dependent on the type of business, the insurer, and the type of operations they're running.
Okay, so we don't know the dollar value impact, but it sounds like it's kind of, it should be minimal because they've
Yes,
already
we
got.
don't, obviously, unless every case will be case by case, obviously, but overall, we don't expect a significant increase in that.
Yeah, so Councillor Noel mentioned direct garage sale thing, like a little kid's lemonade stand. They don't have to worry, do they? Like, you know, you see them in the summertime, you know, lemonade 25 cents.
Through the mayor, no.
Thank you. The only other thing, criminal record checks. The only reason I raised it, we had an email from a retired taxi cab owner. It was about licensing and everything. But then if criminal record checks, would taxi drivers still have to get criminal record checks?
Through the mayor, taxi drivers would still be required to submit one on an annual basis, correct?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you. That's the end of my questions.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor O'Meara.
Thank you very much for this. I had similar questions that Councillor Noel did with regards to the sort of Fall Celtic Festival that we run. And I think we might be, wording and language is important. We talk about if they're charities, but a lot of these are not-for-profit groups, and those two things are not the same thing. So I just want to make sure that we are talking about not-for-profits that run these things and keep bank accounts, and we're not talking about just charities.
Through the mayor, right now, Selena's just going to quickly check the bylaw, but I believe it does say just registered charities.
Okay, well, we might want to address that because a lot of these groups can't get charitable status, but they are a group of volunteers in the community who can get not-for-profit status, and I think that's an important thing to recognize. With regards to the CLOTs, sorry, the paid parking officers that they have to pay a fee, is it not? Are we not able to increase the tickets that we can charge and then cover that cost for them? I mean, we're trying to incentivize and encourage people to become these officers, and can we not have that flow through in the system so we don't look like we're charging them and then the tickets go to the town anyway? Is there a way that we can work that into our administrative costs in terms of if you come and get it, we'll give it to you and then we'll factor that into the ticketing process? It seems like that might be an easy win to encourage some more of these private lot owners to monitor their own lots.
Through you, Your Worship, absolutely we want to incentivize private property owners to take advantage of the MLEOs. At this point, we're really looking at, and as we said, we are going to be working with the finance team to establish those fees. We're really looking at only providing the cost recovery for that administrative process. So the ticket issuance really covers the adjudication, screenings, hearings, the administration of that adjudication process, and of course goes towards the parking reserve. But the administrative costs of establishing the MLEO, monitoring their ticket performance, uploading all of their tickets into the system is really what we're looking at as far as those fees go. We will certainly balance potential income. You'll have some property owners that may only issue one ticket a year, in which case where the cost of the administration of establishing the MLEO is actually more than the value of the ticket, especially if it's gone through a screening or hearing process. And other properties may be substantial in the number of tickets that they issue. So we're really going to look at balancing that out over the long term.
Okay, yeah, I mean, if it's a possibility and we look at it again, I just think it's a way to encourage them. And I'm anyway, I know we've got to figure out how much we bring in and all and what, but if it's an extra $5 a ticket, I don't know if that's worth the juice is worth the squeeze on that one, but that's okay. Yeah, and then just my question about the not-for-profits and the charities is the only thing that I just would have concern over, and then I'll leave it there. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Giddings.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, in terms of police record checks, did I hear you correctly that they're able to be provided within days through a third party?
Through the mayor, that's correct. Some third-party providers have said they can provide it within days, sometimes minutes, depending on the service provider.
Can you comment on where they get their data from? Having gone through it with HRPS, do they go through HRPS or just wondering how they can deliver that quickly, and is that something that they do for the public on a regular basis?
So through the mayor, the third-party providers that we will accept criminal record checks from must be approved by the licensed commissioners, and they must obtain their records through the RCMP repository.
Interesting. All right, thank you for that. The other one is in terms of there was a back and forth email exchange with Commissioner Ayers regarding taxi plates and the desire for some taxi owners to retain their existing plate number after it's been, for better sense, on hold for whatever reason. Has that been clarified?
Yes, through the mayor, we do offer the taxi plates to be put off air for a period of time. And if they do wish to come back online, we've never had an instance where that plate has been issued to another driver in the years we've been offering this service. So I have no concerns about that plate not being available when they do decide to come back online in the future.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Knoll, I think I'm going to skip over you for a first timer. Councillor Adams.
Thank you very much. I wondered if you could go back to the food vendor slides, and I wonder if you could help us understand again, if food is being given away, so it's not being sold, so there's no vendor. Does that person or that organization require a license? So I'm thinking about cases where a existing restaurant, for example, might come to an event and they might give away tests of their, samples of their wares. Does that require a special license?
Through the mayor, no, they do not.
So regardless as to whether it's hot food, cold food, dry
Yeah,
goods?
through the mayor, if it's only if you will be selling food to the public.
So it's literally when money is being handed over, that's when the license is
That's
required?
correct.
Okay, that's very helpful. And it doesn't matter who's given away the food. Presumably they might need a Halton Public Health form or something to be filled in, but
Yeah.
we don't need anything here.
Sorry. So through the mayor, Halton Health would be notified, and they would determine if they would like to inspect that at their wish.
So they might inspect it for
They might.
health reasons, food safety handling issues. but
Correct.
It doesn't require a license, okay, from the town. And the other question I had for you is once we presumably approve this and it becomes live, can we improve the communications that we have on our website about who needs a license, under what circumstance, and what the license is for? In the history of dealing with food trucks and food vendors and so forth for the Northeast Oakville Fair, we've had unending questions about which license is required, when is it required, by which type of vendor, and all of these types of questions. And I wonder if we can do a better job of explaining in layperson terminology on our website which license is required when. Can we work at that?
Through the mayor, that's one of the reasons why we're looking for the 1-year implementation timeframe, because we do have a lot of work to do, and the business licensing web pages is one of those items we really want to tackle.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Councillor Hazard-Thiel.
Thank you very much for soldiering through this. It reminds me of the sign bylaw. Most of my questions have been asked, but we have a very special art event that occurs in Southeast Oakville. We don't sell anything. There's no food. People walk and enjoy just beautiful local art on people's front lawns. Does it require a license?
Thank you for that question, through your worship. It would really depend on the type of the event it is. So if it's something that's in a park, it would be covered under a parks permit. If it's just something that everybody's doing and it's on their front lawn and they're putting out their own art, it would not require a license. If it was something that they were doing, say, on a private property, and they were inviting all kinds of people in, and there might be, hundreds of visitors, that may require an attraction license. So the answer is really, it depends.
Okay, I'm glad I asked. Thanks very much. And thank you very much for making sure that the annual checks are being done on those entering homes and more vulnerable. I think it's critical that we keep consumer protection at a high level.
Absolutely, thank you.
All right, for a second time, Councillor Knoll.
Thank you. I'll try to be quick. Just a couple things I wanted to just bring together. Thank you, Councillor Giddings, for raising Mr. Pellier's letter. Whatever we can do to assure that industry, because I do know that further to that letter, the plate numbers are cultural in the sense that they literally become known by their numbers. So the ability to be able to maintain that number is important for their business stability. And we know that taxi industry has been hammered so heavily by network driving services that whatever we can do to assist, if something as small as that would be useful. The second thing was, my question was, did we consult, did the staff consult with the Halton Regional Police over the issue of going to third-party providers for those services? And the reason I ask this is because one of the things you lose in those third-party record checks is the local flavor from the local police service.
Thank you for that question, through your worship. Halton Regional Police was circulated with this bylaw early on. No further comments were received with respect to that. So at this point, I haven't heard any concerns raised, but I can certainly reach out to them again.
If you could, and feel free to copy me as the chair of the board, I'd be happy to follow through, because I do know that we've had this question come up from time to time, and there is some question as to the completeness of those record checks when it's done. They're done exclusively through CPIC.
Certainly.
CPIC takes the time for it to catch up with the system and et cetera. So, and I just wanted to put an underline, an exclamation mark on the point that I made earlier and Councillor O'Meara raised, and that's that issue between charitable and nonprofit. So if you could really do some work on that, that'd be great. And last thing is, in addition, I understand that you have to have your specific bylaw requirements, and you don't have a ton of flexibility within the legislation itself that you've created and we'll pass tonight. But can you set out guidelines, perhaps, so it doesn't become a "it depends" scenario, so that one person who's answering the phone gives one answer and somebody else gives another answer, which does happen from time to time? If there could be guidelines established that state, what might be one of those "it depends" kind of scenarios, and maybe have a checklist as to how that determination is made, because this is what I was alluding to earlier, that there are these sort of informal events, and you just don't want to get an overzealous municipal enforcement officer to be shutting down a community neighborhood event on the guise of reading the letter and verse of a bylaw.
Through you, your worship, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I think it's going to be very important that not only staff are educated, but Service Oakville is provided with the knowledge base articles, and that we communicate it out, just as was mentioned earlier, as far as the website, making sure that there's clear guidelines on the website as well, so people understand what it is they're looking to do.
That's great. Congratulations on a lot of really great work. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, staff. Councillor Knoll, I'm going to put you down as the mover for this. After that, I'm looking for a volunteer to second. Councillor Longo, thank you. Any objection? There being none, that's carried. Congratulations. All right, that brings us to 11.4, the Oakville Transit-Oriented Community Update, with an emphasis on the word community. We have a presentation from Brandon Hassan, our senior planner, and if we give our, and we have 4 registered delegations to follow, and we may be, who knows, Will, I won't forecast whether we're going to go past the hour or not. Mr. Hassan, you have the floor.
Great, thank you very much. I'll try and keep my portion brief. Good evening, Mayor Burton, members of council, and all of the public attending or tuning into tonight's meeting. This presentation will provide an update on the Oakville Transit-Oriented Community TOC project managed by the province of Ontario. It should be acknowledged that the information contained in this presentation is a summary taken from the province's resubmission number 1, and the TOC is not being prepared by, advanced, or decided on by the town. Technical comments from staff and agency members are due to the province by January 30th, 2026, being this coming Friday. Next slide, please. Thank you. As many of us are aware, but just as a reminder, the TOC sites shown on the location map are 4 separate sites owned by district developments within Midtown in proximity to the Oakville GO station. Each of these 4 sites are labeled 1 through 4 throughout the presentation. From an area context perspective, these images identify the TOC sites within the surrounding areas of Midtown and their conceptual development potential. The image on the left is an overall view with a legend identifying each built form type and land use, while the image on the right is a 3D rendering, which illustrates the potential and proposed buildings, including 420 South Service Road in light blue, which was presented to Planning and Development Council last week. The image on the left is pulled directly from the TOC's Planning Justification Report, which outlines the province's objectives when proposing a TOC development and consists of the 5 items outlined on the screen. The image on the right is a labeled indication of where the province feels their objectives are being met across the TOC sites. This image is somewhat of a repeat from the first submission, which identifies the Oakville TOC being the orange set of buildings in comparison to other major transit station area locations, such as Burlington, Milton, Mississauga, to name a few nearby. This table is a data representation of the previous slide with the Oakville TOC identified with a yellow star. In terms of timing, this timeline is taken directly from the TOC website, and I've identified where we are in the process with a yellow star, although tonight's meeting isn't required or being held by the province. This table provides a brief overview of the TOC-wide changes that the province has made in terms of the development concepts based on various themes, such as community benefits, density and built form, the public realm, and transportation matters. It should be noted that new and or relocated public uses such as the daycare, library, community center, and YMCA are being proposed through the TOC by the province as community benefits, which have not been accepted or established to date. On a site-by-site basis, the province has identified some of the changes they've made for each location. Some of note are for 590 Argus Road, there were some architectural modifications and a switch from a daycare to a community space. For 217 Cross Avenue, again, there were some architectural modifications and the addition of a library. 166 South Service Road, there were some modifications to the POPs areas and a switch from a library to a YMCA. Finally, for 157 and 165 Cross Avenue, there were some architectural and POPs modifications with the inclusion of a daycare. So what do these changes result in the revised site statistics? As you can see, many of the metrics have been modified, but not to a great margin. The non-residential gross floor area is broken down to the proposed land uses, including the community benefits I mentioned on the last slide. While the unit counts have dropped slightly, this is due to the change in unit mix when some of the unit types get merged or split. So I think the reason many of us have gathered here today is to understand what changed in terms of the comments that have been provided by council, the public, staff, and agencies with regards to the scale of development and building heights. As you can see in this image, there have been reductions and increases in stories, which in summary results in the same number of stories across the TOC. Unfortunately, it's very difficult to read, but this table contains the updated site stats for each of the 4 sites, broken down into several categories such as gross floor area, floor space index, units, amenity space, and parking counts, to name a few. So visually, these changes resulted in these conceptual renderings for each site. They are all labeled with the proposed uses throughout the buildings, such as residential in yellow, office in blue, POPs in green, retail in red, and so on. So this would be Site 1 for 217 Cross Avenue. Again, similar legend applies in terms of the color coding for Site 2, 157 Cross Avenue. Same for Site 3, 166 South Service Road. And finally, Site 4, which is 590 Argus Road. In terms of comparing the TOC sites to OPA 70, which was approved by Town Council in February of last year, This slide outlines the permitted floor space index for each of the TOC sites. As you can see, each site has a maximum FSI shown in blue, with the proposed TOC sites FSI in red. The image on the right visualizes the difference in FSI as it relates to the building heights for the proposed TOC sites compared to what they would be if they complied with OPA 70. Given that the TOC is located within Midtown and there is a planned road network, as development applications come forward, a requirement of the developer is to convey rights-of-way and road widenings free and clear of any encumbrances through the plan of subdivision or site plan processes. As you can see, each of the 4 TOC sites is required to provide sections of road from the bounds of their property, which will contribute to the establishment or improvement of Cross Avenue, Argus Road, South Service Road, or new roads as seen in the image on the right. The image on the left identifies the proposed phasing of the sites, which differs slightly from the labeling of the sites previously shown in the presentation. So you can see phase 1 being the priority would be 157, 166 Cross Avenue, and then going to the north for South Service Road, and then southeast to Argus Cross, and then finally phase 4 would be 590 Argus Road. As identified through the town's work in progress for Midtown and implementation studies, there are a number of required pieces of infrastructure in the area in order to effectively allow for travel throughout Midtown and the surrounding area along the QEW. On the map are the 4 major projects that require assistance from the province. As stated in the staff report associated with this presentation, resubmission number 1 of the TOC was submitted to staff by the province through Infrastructure Ontario and the Ministry of Infrastructure on November 17th, 2025, with comments due by this coming Friday, January 30th, 2026. The circulation of the submitted materials was distributed to a wholesome list of internal town departments and external agencies for comments. Some of the common themes and issues raised are seen on the screen related to OPA 70, but not limited to heightened density, community benefits, which I previously mentioned, school sites, timing and phasing of development, environmental constraints to be determined by Conservation Halton, transportation and access, POP spaces, built form and scale, and implementation of the TOC project. Further to the previous slide, this is a list of some of the key items that will make the planning and build out of Midtown a successful, complete community development. And then finally, in closing, this is an image of the province's TOC website, which is www.oakvilletoc.ca, wherein anyone can submit comments directly to provincial staff for their consideration. And that's it.
Sorry, I just got a note from the clerk that considers a matter that we were discussing earlier. Thank you very much for the presentation. I have questions for you from Councillor Elgar. Councillor Elgar, thank you for your patience.
Mayor Burton, thank you, and to staff, thank you very much for all this information, and especially for Appendix B. I must say, when I read through it, what jumped off the page was the whole thing was on page 7 in the second paragraph. It states, it should be noted that NAV Canada has raised concerns related to impacts of Navigation Canada minimum vectoring altitude, bracket MVA, for the TOC sites that cannot have structures such as buildings and or construction cranes intruding into that airspace. Can staff expand a little bit more? Like, in all the reports I've seen, this is the first time I've ever seen this in a staff report. Can you expand on this so that everybody will know what that means?
Yeah, through Mayor Burton, unfortunately, it's a little bit uncharted territory for us and the ATC, which is air traffic control. So we're still trying to understand the implications of the MVA on the TOC sites at this time.
So we will be getting more information on that before anything is ever approved by anybody or goes anywhere? Like, how does this work now that this is brand new information coming to us?
Yeah, through Mayor Burton, it's very new information and kind of good in a way that this is the first project coming forward and no projects have been approved to date, but we are having ongoing conversations with NAV Canada to understand what their requirements are and how that would create implications for the site.
Thank you very much. And I must say, I don't know how you did all this work so fast to respond back. It's just excellent work.
Through your Mayor Burton, it was a team effort.
I certainly believe that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone else? Councillor Hazardale.
Mayor Burton, I'd like to reserve my questions to the delegations because they've been so patient, and then I'll come back with some questions.
Sorry. I mean to get to the delegations as soon as I can. Do you have questions for staff?
I may once we hear the delegations. Am I not allowed to wait?
We'll accommodate you, Councillor. Anybody else? Having no other sign of others, Mr. Clerk, would you call the registered delegations?
Duncan Galloway.
Mr. Galloway, thank you for waiting, and we look forward to your information.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, councillors. Well, my purpose tonight is to express to you, and I guess through you to ministers and officials, our residents' support for the planning staff response of January 16th on the TOC proposal. First, I'm going to provide a minister's perspective of the key points of that letter, Appendix B. Second, I'm going to reinforce our residents' view that OPA 70 is not a plan that is amenable to compromise. Third, the danger is this letter from staff will be ignored again. A minister may be told that there's no alternative to the COC. Anything less cannot be built, despite what planning staff say. So on the third point, I'm going to explain why an MZO for the TOC would simply reward failure. Slide 2, please. On these slides, anything in blue is a direct quote from the planning staff letter of January 16th. They're not my words, they're your staff words. So if I was a minister contemplating ignoring all our responses and concerns and pushing ahead with an MZO or some nasty compromise, this is what I would be doing. I would destroy land use certainty, destroy a level playing field, destroy the prospect of a streamlined development process. I would destroy an unprecedented investment by the town to support a complete livable community. I would further delay redevelopment rather than expediting it. I would enforce deadlines in built form well beyond what would result in a livable community. Slide 3, please. And there's more. I would diminish the economic walkability, active transportation, and recreation goals provided in OPA 70. I would make providing affordable housing much more challenging. I would mandate an underserved community in terms of parkland, social, transportation, water, and sewer infrastructure. I would suppress the town's community benefit requirements. I would give a highly unfair advantage to the TOC landowner. And I would ensure future traffic network would experience substantial delays and recurring congestion. So, ministers, 12 examples of the irreparable harm that you could do with a stroke of a pen. And I repeat, those aren't my words, but the professional conclusions of the town's planning staff. Slide 4, please. My second key point, think of the history of the development of the OPA 70, years of discussion and meetings to get to OPA 70. For residents, OPA 70 represents the maximum possible density which is compatible with a livable, complete community. It's not just a plan of heights and densities. It's a tightly integrated plan for the development of all Midtown. Our view is that any compromise to allow the TOC to go ahead with a few token reductions in height or whatever would be a betrayal. A betrayal of the unanimous vote of this council for OPA 70. A betrayal of the town's professional planners. A betrayal of all those who worked to create a well-planned, complete, and integrated community through OPA 70. For us, this is not a numbers game. It's not a political game of horse trading and compromise. This is about real people, families and children being able to live in a complete community. And as the planning staff letter shows, that's what OPA 70 delivers. Slide 5, please. My third point, ministers may be told to ignore planning staff letter and that the developer cannot build to OPA 70 levels. Well, in any market, if people stop buying your product, you offer something else they will buy. You don't expect the government to help you keep selling what people won't buy. But right now, developers who are stuck in the old product are doing just that. There are alternative development forms that deliver OPA 70 densities profitably and with speed. I list some of those in the appendix to this presentation. But I'm showing in this diagram why this old product, the TOC model of tower condos, is in a self-reinforcing failure loop. An MZO here will simply reinforce that failure is rewarded by this government. Let me walk you around this death spiral. First of all, planning says we'll do densifying, not suburban sprawl. That's fine. But then land becomes speculative. Developers of tower condos buy land at prices that only work if projects become extreme in height and unit count. But then the product no longer matches what people want. Small units, limited family options, thin community amenities, inadequate schools, parks, and daycare. Buyers are saying no. The market wants a different product, livable, family-capable homes and daycare. So, rather than pivoting to a product that sells and can be delivered quickly, the developer's response is to go to government for concessions, override zoning, increase height and density, in other words, reduce livability, reduce parkland and open space expectations, again, reduce livability, reduce development charges and infrastructure obligations, shift the cost to taxpayers, and weaken affordable housing expectations. But, as we can see, the market still says no. So then projects get pushed into multi-phase timelines, hoping the market will come back, creating a backlog of approvals that still don't turn into housing starts. But this delay makes the economics worse. As the schedules slip, financing costs, construction costs, escalation, and project risks overwhelm returns. So some developers then attempt the only lever they have, cram in even more units and go even higher, while seeking extraordinary planning relief, including MZOs. But that makes the whole product less desirable and the community less livable, further weakening market demand. So the result, the MZO, is the last resort of a development model that is doomed to fail in the market. There are alternatives, some of which I describe in the appendix to this material, and these models are achievable under OPA 70. So my closing message is, I guess, through you, to ministers. Listen to the town's professional planners. Do not reward failure by signing an MZO. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Galloway, for your presentation. Councillor Hazathiel, is this, Councillor Hazathiel has a question for you, Mr. Galloway.
Duncan, once again, thank you for your brilliance, and those first two slides need to be memorialized. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Mr. Galloway. Mr. Clerk, the next delegation.
George Niblick.
Welcome, Mr. Niblick. I see you're not virtual tonight. Welcome to the real George Niblick.
Niblock, thank you. And I didn't get a Zoom invitation. I'm not quite sure how that works, so I decided I should come in person instead. Good evening, Mayor Burton and Council. I'm here on behalf of We Love Oakville. For those that don't know, it's a group representing 12 residents associations, and over 8,500 residents. We're here to express our strong support and appreciation to the town planning staff and their professional report on the revised Oakville TOC. We agree with the staff report conclusion that the revised TOC represents an excessive and disproportionate share of Midtown's planned population as envisioned by OPA 70. This could distort the market for condos in Midtown, undermine the development of other Midtown sites, and jeopardize Midtown's success as a complete community. It also risks exceeding our planned infrastructure capacity, underscoring the need to scale back the TOC to align with OPA 70. We are concerned with the lack of clear and enforceable planning guardrails for the TOC as highlighted in the report. Limits on height and density, adequate tower separation, access to light and air, wind mitigation, safe streets, emergency access, and functional public realm design. Without these guardrails, the TOC will likely result in an environment that is unsafe, uncomfortable, and fundamentally unlivable. We Love Oakville agrees with town staff that density exceeding OPA 70 thresholds are not justified. The TOC proposed density undermines the complete community outcome that we have advocated for as residents. Complete communities require integrated planning for parkland, schools, and childcare, transportation, mobility, stormwater, and climate resilience, urban design, and servicing capacity. We are troubled that the TOC enables an unfair and unprecedented advantage to a single developer at the expense of the other landowners and developers located in Midtown. The issuance of 4 MZOs would immediately increase the value of the subject land owned by the single developer. We note that this TOC process has been done under confidentiality agreements, without transparency, without meaningful public engagement, or independent oversight. We are particularly concerned that this TOC fails to meet the stated TOC objective of building homes faster, with phase 1 not beginning until post-2030 and full build-out for over 20 years. We support the staff's conclusion that this proposal is fundamentally a private development proposal with little to no community benefit for either the town or the province. Little to no benefit for either the town or the province. It delivers no near-term housing, does not advance the province's housing targets, and fails to meet the TOC program objectives, and is not in the public interest. We note with concern, as Councillor Elgar mentioned, in the staff report that NAV Canada has raised concerns that the TOC building heights may exceed Navigation Canada's minimum vectoring altitude. Mayor Burton, many if not most residents have lost confidence in this process. The professional judgment of town planning staff and the voices of the community are aligned, but the province releasing this revised TOC and the proposed MZOs, we have clearly been ignored. Town staff have once again concluded that this density is beyond OPA 70 is not justified, and that this proposal delivers little to no community benefit. We urge you to actively and decisively champion the findings of this report and ensure that they are understood and taken seriously in your discussions with provincial ministers and officials. Going forward, should the province opt to advance any other non-OPA 70 compliant TOC proposal or compromise, we urge you to object and to insist on a public meeting. Any TOC proposal that doesn't comply with OPA 70 must be publicly assessed and responded to. In closing, we support staff's request that the province preserve the role of local planning decision-making through the town's OPA 70. We remind everyone that OPA 70 exceeds provincial growth targets, supports transit-oriented development, streamlines approvals, reduces red tape, and allows for flexibility to respond to changing market conditions and results in homes built faster. OPA 70 ensures landowners and developers zoning certainty within a holistic planning framework and promotes positive conditions for growth. We believe the only MZO, Minister Zoning Order, that should be issued is one that approves and implements OPA 70 for all of Midtown. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Niblock, for your presentation. Councillor Hazard-Thiel.
Actually, I didn't have my hand up this time, but George, once again, thank you. Thank you for a comprehensive letter. And I think my question to you is, if you had to put on the minister's reading list these two documents, would you concur that this should be what they read?
I would hope so, yeah, absolutely. We have submitted, Jim Goodfellow, my colleague, won't be presenting tonight, but he has submitted our letter for the record.
Thank
Yes,
you very
that's
much.
right. We have received it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, George. Mr. Clerk?
Douglas McCurgan.
Mr. McCurgan, we see you on the screen. Welcome. We're looking forward to your presentation.
Press that. Can everyone hear me?
We can hear you. Thank you.
Jolly good. Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor, councillors, town staff. I'm delegating tonight on behalf of the Trafalgar Chapel Residents Association and on behalf of We Love Oakville. I intend to be brief. I'm planning to speak both about the Oakville talk and the OPA and OPA 70. Speaking about the Oakville talk in the context of OPA 70. The two are inextricably connected in our minds. Just a side comment. I've never attended a council meeting before, and I'm amazed at what you guys go through, and just how much work you put into it all. I'm very impressed. Anyway, can I have the next slide, please? So plagiarizing the Prime Minister, surrender is not a strategy. We feel very strongly about the 2 points. We must unequivocally endorse the staff report, and we must reject compromise on OPA 70 and its application to the whole of Midtown. I thought Duncan did a masterful job of pointing out all of the problems with the revised talk. The reasons shown here just summarize everything that all the problems we have with the talk. It's totally misaligned with OPA 70 and the draft community planning permit system or bylaw. OPA 70 complies with all provincial legislation and regulation, and the revised Oakville talk, were it to go ahead, would guarantee endless and severe social infrastructure and operational problems in Midtown. And if I could have the next slide, please. Persistence will win, in our opinion, even if the province does this silly thing and issues MZOs to permit the talk. we will continue to push back. But we need you, Mayor Burton, and every councillor to lead. We need all of you to be crystal clear with Queen's Park that you endorse the staff report, that OPA 70 must be approved, that the revised Oakville TOC will be a disaster for Oakville and the government, and it is totally unnecessary. And we need all of you to help mobilize Oakville residents through your newsletters and other channels. The residents' associations can't do it alone. If we have to fight, we'll need your leadership. And that's the end of my delegation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. McCorgan. Councillor Giddings has a question for you.
No, just thank you, Doug, for coming out. It's been an incredibly long process. Your residents association and the other residents associations are to be commended for your stamina and for not surrendering. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Giddings. I think you speak for all of us when you say that. All right. Council, the indicated resolution is to receive the report prepared by the Planning and Development Department dated January 20th, but I'd like to suggest that we reword that slightly to be that the report prepared by the Planning and Development Department dated January 20th, 2026 be received and endorsed. Councillor Hazard-Thiel.
Thank you, Mayor Burton. I'd like to ask the staff my questions now, if that's okay. And I do like your additional line, and I have one additional line I'd like to also add. So I'm not sure which staff member can confirm, but I think it might be Brandon. Can you confirm if the ERO comments were sent directly to the minister, or were they just submitted on the ERO?
Through Mayor Burton to the councillor, they were submitted through the ERO website, and I received confirmation that it was accepted through the portal.
Okay, so they have not been hand-delivered or specially delivered to Minister McCarthy. So we followed the same protocol that hopefully a lot of residents did as well. So thank you for that. I also wanted to just take a moment because we've asked at times some very, very difficult questions. And these two reports are just outstanding. They deserve every accolade. They highlight in a more simplified way, although I know people will find 60 pages a lot to read, and the other 17, more information than we have been able to capture throughout the process. It clarifies the number of elementary school children that the TOC itself will generate. It clarifies that, there's been no response in terms of addressing CH's concerns with flooding. It highlights innumerable opportunities to adjust the TOC to something that will be better for the ultimate resident and our community, and I can't thank you enough. And I know you said it's a team effort, but to the entire team, it is outstanding work, and should be on everyone's must-read list. One of my questions is in regards to this document being a foundational document, and particularly the ERO and the staff response to any discussions that may be occurring with the ministry. And I'm not sure if the commissioner can respond to that, or you should, Mayor Burton, but these two reports really strongly articulate why we need to get to a better place. Can the commissioner or Mayor Burton, confirm that these are foundational and are being used in discussions with the ministers?
Through the mayor to you, Councillor. Yes, this information is, dialogue that we've had with the province when they update us, for example, on the TOC. We have relatively regular meetings in that way. What's discussed in these reports is information that they have from us, and we've presented to council all we know in terms of what we've received from them.
And when you say all we know, it's because you don't even have a copy of the MZO at this point, according to what you've written. Is that correct?
Through you, Mayor, no, we do not have a draft MZO before us.
Okay. And so they are the foundational, I think one of the delegates used the phrase guardrails that should form how we are having these go forward discussions with the minister. Is that fair to say?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we ourselves as staff don't talk directly to the minister, but ministry staff, when we have discussions with them, these documents do provide a framework for those discussions.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. So, Mayor Burton, can you confirm that these are the foundational documents that are guiding you around your discussions with the ministers?
I can assure you that, I'll put the microphone on so you can hear me. I can assure you that these documents and the presentations of information related to it have been making a difference in terms of the attitude that I hear in my conversations.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I had mentioned that I also wanted to suggest an amendment to what you've just added, which is to the endorse. I do believe we need to ensure that this is in the hands of the ministers. As a lowly municipal regional councillor, we just went through 620 some odd pages. I understand the volume of reading they must do, but having the opportunity and making sure that this is in their hands directly, I would like to be added to our receipt and endorsement tonight, particularly given the pressing timeframes we're under.
I'm not sure I understood what you said. What is your additional line that you want to add?
So that the town planning staff ensures copies of both the ERO and the staff response are provided directly to Minister Crawford, McCarthy, and Flair no later than January 27th, 2026.
Except for staff's normal relation to provincial staff and not to ministers, it's a fine sentiment. I'd be happier to promise to convey it to them myself.
So you want me to change town planning staff to say that Mayor Burton will ensure?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
I'll be glad to do that.
Great, thanks very much.
That may be a little less awkward for staff.
I know a delivery service. Thanks very much again, and thanks to the delegations, and thank you to everybody who will, I hope, based on Mr. McCurgan's comments, include some of this information in your newsletters to continue to make sure that we don't surrender and we get to the right place for Midtown.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone else? If not, I'll call the vote. Is there any objection? Councillor Elgar?
Mayor Burton, I think that, I don't know whether it's order, but I think we should give a standing ovation to our staff who wrote that report. It's amazing what they wrote. They did such a good job.
Would you like to vote first or applaud first?
I want to do both. Perfect. Thank you.
We've been sitting so long, I welcomed the chance to exercise my legs. A recorded vote, is that necessary?
I think so. I think we've got to show this across the piece.
I'm going to be asking you for a motion to go past the hour. We've got more to go.
Oh, yes.
Mr. Clerk, would you call the vote?
Thank you, Mayor Burton. Councillor O'Meara?
Yes.
Councillor McNeice?
Yes.
Councillor Duddick?
Yes.
Councillor Chisholm?
Yes.
Councillor Hazard-Thiel. Councillor Giddings.
Yes.
Councillor Elgar.
Yes.
Councillor Longo.
Yes.
Mayor Burton.
Yes.
Councillor Knoll.
Yes.
Councillor Grant.
Yes.
Councillor Adams.
Yes.
Councillor Lashina.
Yes.
Councillor Nanda.
Yes.
Councillor Shi.
Yes.
Carries, Mayor Burton.
Thank you, everybody. Council, you have your memoranda for your reading pleasure, which I'm sure you enjoyed. If you have questions about any, now's the time. If there's new business, now's the time. Councillor Hazard-Thiel.
Mayor Burton, I asked Andrea Coyne to circulate a notice of motion for consideration at an upcoming, I guess it's the February meeting, and I'd like to table that.
I'm just looking for it. And I'm trying to, I've
Sorry.
received a number of emails on this subject. I'm just trying to catch up with the email traffic.
So it is the 9:40 p.m., I believe. May have been, actually, no, it's 9:34. The council directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaw in accordance with the Municipal Elections Act 1996 to place the following question on the ballot for the 2026 Oakville municipal elections to be held on October 26, 2026. And the question is, are you in favor of the town of Oakville establishing a lobbyist, and it should say, and gift registry to record lobbying activities to enhance transparency in municipal decision-making, yes or no? I table it tonight for future discussion. And I understand there may be some suggestions about wordsmithing, and I think we can consider those when it comes forward.
Fine. The request, well, thank you for the notice of motion. There's no other procedure involved then. And that allows me to bring us to the request for report by Councillor Chisholm and Councillor Duddick. And that request is that the staff be directed to undertake a feasibility review of on-street parking opportunities along Bond Street to support additional parking for the Kerr Street Village area, including an assessment of any required physical improvements, geometry changes, and potential parking payment mechanisms, and report back to council with findings and recommendations. Is there any objection to this request for a report? And let me move this Outlook out of the way. Councillor Hazard-Thiel, your hand is up. Are you objecting?
I'm sorry.
All right.
I'll put it down.
Then I can report to Councillor Chisholm and Councillor Duddick, you have achieved unanimous success. Your request for a report has been approved. Mr. Clerk, which of these bylaws, if any, are we not approving? They're all good. All right, Council, you have a list of bylaws under item 17.1 to 0.5 that we've discussed tonight. And we need a mover and seconder for the passage of these. Councillor Shea, thank you, and Councillor Elgar, thank you. Any objection? Those bylaws are considered read and approved. And then we have delegated authority bylaws, which were prepared under the authority of the amending bylaw 2023-01 as amended. And this is a bylaw to delegate certain powers and duties under the Municipal Act and other acts. And these are 18.1 to 18.4 as listed in the agenda. I need a mover and seconder for these. Councillor Giddings and Councillor Knoll, thank you. Any objection? There being none, they are considered read and passed too. And that finishes the work of the meeting well before the need for any motion to go past the hour. Congratulations, everybody, and thank you. It's been terrific working with you, and I look forward to the next opportunity. Good night.